What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You're watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. We are on to night number 26, and we have a great show for you today. We'll be talking plenty baseball because we got the owner, the man I don't call Uncle Stevie, but I know some other folks call Uncle Stevie. Steve Cohen opens up by what he expects from the Mets this upcoming season. Spoiler alert, he wants at least the playoffs. We'll talk about whether or not that's a good barometer, good, as he called, table stakes for the Mets this upcoming season. We'll also talk about Aaron Judge, who opened up about some anxiety he had about the opening of this Yankee offseason. Plus, we have some NFL news that happened. Tyreek Hill was cut by the Miami Dolphins, so is he a factor coming into this offseason for a team that may be looking for a finishing piece? Does he still have it coming off of a very severe knee injury where he tore his ACL and his dislocated his knee earlier this season in the game against the Jets? So we'll talk about Tyreek Hill as he now becomes a free agent. And at 6:30, my good friend Dexter Henry, New York Post sports anchor, he's going to join me at 6:30. We'll talk NBA All-Star Weekend. We'll talk Knicks second half. We'll talk Mets spring training. We'll get into a bunch of stuff with Dex. You know, Dex is also, like myself, a big hip-hop fan and a big J. Cole fan. So I definitely want to also get his thoughts on what people have been saying about the fall off and his thoughts on that album as well, as the tour was announced today. A multi-country tour that's going to begin in the U.S., begin in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then will end overseas. So we got a lot to get to, man. This is going to be a good one again. 40 days, 40 nights with your boy EJ Stewart. Rocking live, multiple spots, including on YouTube. New Generation Media is where we're streaming live on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Also, live on X. EJ_Stewart is where you'll find me on X. And streaming live on Instagram. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram. Again, you want to hang out, you want to rock with your boy for the next 2 hours, hour and a half or so. I know Dex will rock with me for a little bit. Make sure you join me live here. Get in the comment section, ask questions, whatever you want to do to engage in the show. Engage, man, because I bring up comments. We just chat it out. We chat, man. This is a fun environment, and we're winding this down, man. To look at this number on the top right of the screen go up every single every single day. I go and see 26 facts. I've done 25 of these already. In terms of full days, this will be the end of the 26th day of doing this, where we do 2 live streams per day. One at 8 a.m., which we did earlier today, where special guest David Shepard of Sirius XM NBA Radio joined me to talk about NBA All-Star Weekend. And we do one every day at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. That is Monday through Friday. So if you enjoy hearing talk about sports, you love hearing talk about superheroes, you love hearing talk about hip-hop music, even reality TV, I may sneak in a little bit of Love is Blind. Because I did catch up and watch all the episodes of Love is Blind. There were 6 episodes dropped this week. I told you guys that is my #1 reality show, and they're doing this season in Ohio, and this one looks like it's going to be interesting. So we may get into that if we have some time at the end of the show. So this is going to be a fun one again. 40 days, 40 nights, your boy EJ Stewart. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, where we're streaming live, and we're streaming live on Instagram as well, Action EJ, and streaming live on YouTube, New Generation Media. So let's get the ball rolling. Let's talk some Mets stuff, because Steve Cohen, he spoke to the media today, and, you know, it was kind of one of his, I guess, his first real big kind of gathering and press conference, kind of just talking about, it really wasn't a press conference per se. It was kind of like a gaggle in the dugout where he just answered questions from the media about all different types of things. And he opened up about plenty. He opened up about how the offseason went, the anxiety he had when he learned that they were not going to be able to bring back some of the guys that they lost, like a Pete Alonso, like a Edwin Diaz. and his expectations from this season. So let's not waste any more time. Let's let you hear from Steve Cohen. So this was Steve Cohen, who started off really talking about kind of his frustration with the Mets situation, because he came in, if you remember, when he bought the team, he kind of now infamously said that he expected the Mets to be competing for a championship in 3 years and winning a title hopefully within the first 5 years of his ownership. That clearly has not happened. We're in year 6 and there's no championship here. So he admitted that there is annoyance that comes with not being able to win the big one.
How annoyed are you?
About not winning? Yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm absolutely annoyed. Every year that goes by, I get frustrated, and I'm really committed to this team, and I know how much the fans care. I know we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of 1986, and that's just too long. And there's a lot of great teams out there. No matter what you do, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win the World Series. But I just want to put myself in position every year in the playoffs where we have a chance with a really good team.
So you heard that at the end there, that you can't guarantee winning a World Series because of how hard it is or how much of a crapshoot it is. That leads very much into the next soundbite, which when he was asked, what are the expectations for this season, he says, as he said, table expectations are playoffs.
I think table stakes is making the playoffs. Got to make the playoffs, right? I mean, I missed the playoffs last year, missing 2 years in a row. That's not good. And then obviously you want to go deep. And you can't. These are short series. You can't control what goes on in these short series. Anything can happen. But I think the idea is keep putting yourself in that position, year in, year out, which we haven't done, right? It's been off and on, and so we got to do better. And those are the goals that I'm seeking.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I said this when I was hosting on The Fan on, Saturday night, on Valentine's Day night. And it was more about Juan Soto. And it definitely applies to him because he's the best player on the team. And I think they're going to need a big year from him if they're going to accomplish the goals that they want, obviously. But I think it should be the standard for the team. Playoffs is not enough for this team anymore. Playoffs is not enough for this franchise anymore. This is a franchise that over the course of it started in 61. We're now in 2026. I mean, how many years? I'm not a math, as you guys know, I'm not a mathematician. But that's 60-something years, almost 70 years. And they've only won the division 6 times. They've only won the division twice in this millennium. They've only had back-to-back playoff appearances once in their entire existence as an organization. So to me, I'm tired of the whole, we just need to get to the playoffs thing. I'm not saying that Steve Cohen, he said that's table expectations, which that's fine. But I'm not even talking about even postseason. I'm not even into the postseason expectations in terms of what to do in the postseason. I think if I want to know that the Mets have turned over a new leaf, and this is not the same old Mets, go win the division. Enough of this Atlanta, Philly, and the Mets trying to sneak into a wild card. Or how many years have we seen, like last season, where you're in the lead for your division and you blow it? Like we saw, same thing in 2024, right? I think to me, winning your division obviously doesn't equate to championships. The Braves won 1 million in a row, and they won 1 World Series title during that entire time. I understand that. But I do think when you're able to have the consistency that it takes to have a 162-game season and be the best team out of a group of 5 teams that you play over the course of an entire season, I think it speaks to what is likely going to be more consistency for your franchise moving forward, and less likelihood that you're a flash in the pan, which the Mets have been. Every one of these years that they've had where they've had these magical seasons or magical postseason runs, all of them have been flash in the pans except for 99 and 2000, where it was kind of like a combo deal, where they were legitimately a very well-built, very good team. But it was only, even then, for 2 years. And they didn't win the division in either of those years. But you want to talk about 06, you want to talk about 24, you want to talk about when they made the World Series, 15? All of those years are flash in the pan years, every single one of them. So if the Mets are going to show me, and Steve Cohen's going to show me, that this is a team that is showing is trending in the right direction towards being a true perennial powerhouse in the National League, they got to start racking up some division titles. Like the fact that they choked it away a couple years ago, and then of course they lost to the Padres in the wild card round. That was, for all intents and purposes, a truly devastating end to a season that should have been magical when you win 101 games. Devastating. It's crazy to win 101 games and have a devastating end to the season, but that's what it was, to lose to Atlanta in those 3 games and then to blow it at the end in the games against San Diego at home. Brutal. But if the Mets are going to show that they're beyond just a flash in the pan in these years, and we're not talking about, oh, the Mets one good year here and then they're going to go back into the crapper the next year, go win this division. This division, to me, I do not think is that it's not. There's talent in it. I'm not saying that it's easy, but that's why I'm saying go win the division. Show me something. I look at the Phillies, and I think that this is a team that is a little bit on the fritz right now. You have Bryce Harper coming in. They asked him about, what do you think about Dave Dombrowski putting doubt into whether or not you're still an elite player? He sounded pissed about it. Like, I mean, I'm not shocked that Bryce Harper didn't take that well, knowing how hot he rides. But, like, he was like, I don't know why he said that. That seems silly to me. Also, I don't get motivated by that. So I don't really know what that was about even. And I think Dave probably was trying to do a mix of a couple of things. I think he was trying to get under Bryce's skin a little bit to maybe say, hey brother, like, we need you to step it up. Like, I know you're getting a little older now, but if we're gonna find a way to get over this hump and finally win a title with you, like, you're gonna have to play at a higher level than you did this past season. But I also think he was also setting expectations realistically for the media and for the fans to be like, hey, if you guys think this is a Bryce Harper from 3-4 years ago, you might be kidding yourself. We understand this might not be the same guy anymore. So I think he was kind of trying to play both sides of the fence there. I don't know how smart it was. I think it did definitely PO his, arguably his best player. How much does it matter if the best player doesn't like the GM? I mean, Derek Jeter at the end couldn't stand Brian Cashman. I still don't think he could stand Brian Cashman. I think they were fine in terms of the Yankees, and Derek Jeter were fine. No, so I don't know how much that's the big issue. But I see a team that, I think was reeling off of not getting Bo Bichette. You lose Ranger Suarez, and we got to see what Zach Wheeler is going to be like coming back from surgery, and expect him to be back sometime May, early June. There's question marks in Philadelphia. They had to re-sign Real Muto because he had to panic after losing Bichette, and I don't really know if they were really all that into have to sign Real Muto, a guy who looked like he was starting to look like he's coming on the decline here. So I think Philly is food. I think that Atlanta is a team that battles injuries, and you're going to have to show me Spencer Strider and show me Ronald Acuna for a full 162-game healthy season for me to fully be worried about those guys again. I think the Mets exercised a lot of demons when they went into Atlanta in those last few games, and they won that dramatic first leg of the doubleheader where Diaz almost blows it, and Lindor hits a home run to put it back up, and then Diaz saves it, and they clinch a full playoff spot, and that began that run for the OMG Mets as they were able to make the playoffs and get all the way to the NLCS before losing to the Dodgers. I don't look at the Braves the same since then, and maybe that's foolish of me, but I've never seen the Mets beat the Braves in that situation. And I think that they exercise as a franchise a lot of demons, and I think that the Braves, with all the powers that they had over the Mets for 20, 30 freaking years, all those powers is almost like the Undertaker at WrestleMania, where you think that you have him beat, and all of a sudden he's able to do ungodly, supernatural things, and you keep losing. I feel like that was the Mets playing before in Turner Field, now, Truett Park, whatever they call it. Like, that was the Mets all those years, and then they won that match. They were finally Brock Lesnar breaking the streak. They won that game, sent themselves to the playoffs. Of course, they didn't eliminate the Braves in the playoffs, but the Braves, I don't think, have looked the same since. They were not much of a threat in that playoffs, and they fell apart completely last season. They had one of the worst starts you could have for a baseball team. So I'm gonna wait and see before I really get concerned about the Braves. So I look at the Mets, and I feel like they're the best team in this division despite all the changes. There's going to be some adjustment. I think they need to get off to a great start just to get the fans off their back, but they might not with Lindor being injured. But I guess this larger point is that I don't, for me, it's not going to be just, oh, they made the playoffs. Okay, that was a successful season. I'm like, okay, this is good. And listen, they win a championship as a wild card. Who cares, right? But if we're really going to feel in the core of our soul as Mets fans that this is truly different. That this is a team that is sustainable, that can actually continue to dominate and continue to be a perennial winner. Again, win the division. You've done it once in, 25 years? 2015 is the only year, and you did it winning 92 games that year, I think you won. Like, that, you want to talk about things too long. Yes, I know that 40-year streak of not winning a World Series, obviously, like Steve Cohen said, I agree, it's too long. The never being able to win this division thing has also gotten a little crazy. So I'm wearing my Miami Hurricane shirt today. It reminds me of Miami Hurricanes not being able to win the ACC. It's like, what are we doing at a certain point? You're the Miami Hurricanes. You got to win the ACC at some point. The Miami Hurricanes went to a national championship game before they had been able to win the ACC conference in the regular season, which is crazy, which I think is the same thing. I think for Miami Hurricane fans, I think even deep down, we're like, okay, we're back, so to speak, but we got to win this conference, man. What's going on? Like, so I think winning your division in baseball still matters, because if you look at the teams that win their division, if you look at the last 5 or 10 years, you're looking at teams that just, again, they're not flash in the pans. Like the Dodgers always win their division. Again, if you think about the Phillies and who they've been, or the Braves and who they've been kind of yo-yoing the division. Those are perennial winning teams, right? The Brewers are a perennial winning team. Like, these are the kind of teams that do this. Yankees, perennial winning team. I don't think it's that hard and should be that much to ask for the Mets to simply go out there and win their division. Also, from Steve Cohen today, he said that he also was anxious when it came to all these guys that were gone. So no Diaz, no Alonso. Of course, they traded for Brandon Nimmo. And you had fans like myself going crazy. I wasn't going as crazy as some of the most extreme fans that were really upset these guys left. I was more like, what is the plan? Since it seemed like they were doing nothing. Even he said he had to be calmed down by his own general manager that things will be okay.
You develop these relationships, and I felt what the fans felt, right? I mean, and the worst part was these players left, and yet we hadn't signed or figured out who was going to fill those positions. And I describe it as, even I was feeling anxiety, right? Like, how are we going to get there? But David kept cautioning me and telling me that, stay patient. That it's a long off season. I think the off season doesn't end December. It ends, even past today, right? I mean, potentially, right, for teams. And we stayed patient and disciplined, and I feel really good about what we accomplished.
Yeah, I think the Mets stumbled their way into a pretty good ball club. I want to see them all come together and be whole. Like, I want to see what this team is like with Lindor in the lineup, as dynamic as he normally is. But assuming that will happen at some point, maybe it happens in June, maybe it happens in July, wherever that is. And I know maybe I'm being a pessimist if I just penciling in that Lindor's not going to be the same Lindor this year. I'm just trying to be realistic. This is just what they say about this hammy bone injury, is that you just don't have the same kind of pop you had previously, and it takes time for that to come back. So if that is the case, I'm a little worried about that. But nonetheless, I still think that they have a rotation with Peralta at the top of it. And then I'm a believer that Nolan McLean is the real deal. I think that stuff, you can't teach the stuff that he has. So we could talk about people catching up to him or whatever. I think that he's going to be fine. So I think that this is a good team. I think it's a team that's the best team in the division. I hope that they find a way to go out there and win the division. One last thing on Cohen before we move on. He said this when it came to, and I mislabeled this, so I'm hoping this is the right soundbite, because I have two soundbites that say make the playoffs. But I believe this one is about the captainship. Let me play it for you guys and just see what this is.
As long as I'm owning the team, there will never be a team captain.
Really?
Okay, that was my decision. My view is the locker room is unique, and let the locker room sort it out year in, year out. And so.
So you're not saying that there'll never be one? But
no, there'll never be a captain.
There'll never be a captain.
There'll never be a captain.
Okay. When did you make that decision?
I've felt that way all along.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this one. Part of me wonders if, first of all, I don't know if that's true, that they would never be a captain. There have been rumors and whispers about Lindor being the captain of the team now for at least a year and a half. Like, if you want to say the second half of the season, I think we're falling apart. We stopped talking about him being the captain. That's one thing. But I think from pretty much when that, or it maybe go counter year, maybe when that OMG run started and Lindor was on a tear and he was carrying the team till And then it was more than a year. Because you can go back to even a couple in 2024, I'm sorry, when they had that big year. No, they've been talking about that for years. Why Cohen thought now was the time to make this declaration that they'll never be a team captain seems Johnny come lately. I don't know if I buy that he always had that, but what this tells me, and maybe this is me putting my tinfoil hat on, I wonder if those reports and rumors about the captainship actually being a point of contention in the locker room are real. Because he, in theory, I mean, he's not 30 years old, but Cohen's not a super old guy. Like, in theory, he could be the owner of this team and be like an active member of building this team at least for the next 20 years. I'm sorry, you don't know who's going to come through those doors. I know Derek Jeters are a once-in-a-lifetime player, and some of these guys we talk about on these other teams are once-in-a-lifetime players. But the idea that you never would have wanted to honor someone with that honor of being a captain seems a little weird. It seems weird to say this is a never, ever gonna happen kind of thing. It makes me feel like this is something that he wanted to quelch immediately. Don't allow this to become any more of a story where now it becomes, all right, is it going to be Soto versus Lindor for captain of the team? And the way he said it, he said, I want the locker room to kind of sort it out. I get that. I understand that a little bit. But this did make me wonder if this was a little bit of damage control from those conversations where if you didn't know what happened, and again, this is all kind of rumors and speculation, but there were rumors that Brandon Nimmo was one of the guys that was not too keen on hearing about Francisco Lindor potentially being named the team captain because he was not a lifelong Met, right? He started his career in Cleveland, and Nimmo is a lifelong Met, and he's a very much a personable guy, a fan favorite, and a guy who hustles and all those different things. I think the reporting was he kind of took umbrage that he was never going to be considered for that, but someone who kind of came in late was going to be considered for that. And look, my thing's Brandon Nimmo. All right, bro, whatever. I'm sorry. I had no time or patience for Brandon Nimmo complaining about a freaking captainship. If he really was upset about that, like, good riddance. That to me, it's utterly ridiculous. That a guy, because you're a homegrown guy, now you have to be the captain. That doesn't make any sense. Gary Carter was an unbelievable leader for the Mets in the 80s. He was not a homegrown Met. Does that mean that he couldn't, in theory, be named the captain? Like, I don't get it. So that was stupid to me, and I thought it was ridiculous that that was even a conversation. But hearing that made me kind of wonder if there was some teeth to that, because that seemed a little odd to me. But yeah, that was Steve Cohen today. Again, my big thing, he says that playoffs are the table setter in terms of like the lowest amount of expectations he has for this team, which I would understand from his standpoint. For me though, I look at the team and I say, man, we need more than just the playoffs. And again, it's not necessarily about like, oh, I want a World Series. I want that. I'm not saying that's the expectation or that's where the goal is. If you don't get that, you're a failure. I just think if they go through another season and it's a 94 win season and they get hot at the end and they sneak in as a wild card, it may be a great year. Again, they may even win the World Series in that scenario, because the baseball World Series playoffs are a crapshoot. But will I firmly believe that the Mets are going to be a perennial, consistent postseason staple moving forward and a powerhouse in the National League because they won a wild card again? I'm not going to believe that, because there's nothing in the history that says that that's the case. Nothing in the history that says that that's ever happened. All these other playoff runs have been flashed in the pans. So I would like, if I was Steve Cohen and I was David Stearns and I was this team, they should be setting the expectation for division. Win the NL East, show that there's a new sheriff in town, and that this is going to be your house and your house alone for the next few years. Because that's what it should be. You spend more money than all these other teams. I think Philly is getting a lot older now. Again, I've talked about the injury concerns in Atlanta. This should be their division. So at this point, I don't know what they're waiting for. I'll get to Aaron Judge a little bit later, but we got a very special guest joining me today. Really excited about this. Of course, I talked a bunch about how I was over there for the New York Got Game live watch party, watching Knicks and Raptors just a couple weeks ago. I did this show, then ran to the city to do that show. And of course, you've heard him as a fill-in anchor when I was working on Maggie and Perloff's show for Infinity Sports Network. He's also done updates on the Fan while I was hosting on the Fan. And again, you can catch him always on New York Post Sports Today. You got Dexter Henry joining me here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. Dex, what's happening?
What's good, my guy? How you doing? I'm great. Thank you for that beautiful intro. I'm great, man. So glad to see you doing the show. What day are we on? No, 26. I see right there in the corner. Night 26.
Night 26. Yeah, this is a long grind. This is a long grind.
I like it though. You know, I llove the idea. You know, I told you when you did it. I love the idea. I love that you're doing it, man. Just staying sharp at what you do. So, thank you for having me on.
You got it, man. And I want let's stay on the Mets. You got rocking the Mets hat, so it makes sense to stay there. I said earlier that to me, Steve Cohen set the expectation for a playoff. He said it as, you know, kind of the table expectations, the bare minimum. So I want to give him that credit. But at the same time, forget about postseason, because to me, I do believe the postseason is a crapshoot. I do think it is very hard to predict what you're going to do in a playoff series that's so short, and which is what he said, and I think he's right about that. But to me, one of the things that have bothered me is this team has been a consistent inconsistency. It's been, they could have one good year, like, oh my God, they made the playoffs, they snuck in as a wild card, and then they may win a round or two, like, oh wow, they got close, they almost win the World Series in some years, right? And then the next year you don't make the playoffs, and then sometimes it's years and years and years before you get back to the postseason. So I felt like the expectation for this franchise needs to shift from, we need to just get into the playoffs because maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle, where they need to set their expectations to actually trying to win the NL East. Because winning the NL East, I think winning divisions in baseball are a much better indicator that you have a path towards sustained success and a sustained path towards being a powerhouse. Do you feel like that is a much better kind of approach to this, or you agree with Steve that if you make the playoff, that should be the main goal at this point?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason I agree with you, and I think we're both on the same page, is we both grew up Mets fans. And most Mets fans, I mean, a Mets fan of any age, you really think about it, has never seen sustained success. Nope. Never. It has never occurred. Like, your best run of Mets baseball is probably what, 1985 to 88? Like, if you really think about it, right, with winning a World Series. 88 was a disappointing season. I mean, I was really young at that time, so I didn't get to see that, but again, the next run you're talking about is 98 to 2000.
Yep.
A couple of all wild card appearances, and then a run to the World Series.
Yeah.
The Mets haven't won the division that often in my lifetime. 2006 is one of the better years you've seen. Then it was disappointed. So with all that being said, I'm not going to go through all the Mets history. With all that being said, EJ, yeah, because people can say whatever they want to say about the Atlanta Braves, and since 95, they've won 2 titles and all that stuff. They got a lot of division titles.
Yeah.
They've had sustained success. You always feel like they're in the game. The Mets never feel like that. The Mets have talked this, though. They've said they want sustained success. They're saying they want to be the Dodgers East and all that stuff. And I think that stuff sounds good. But that's where I kind of rock with you. If you want to be that, I'll tell you what the Dodgers are not thinking about, wild card. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking division title, right? Division title, get in. You're going to be hosting a series at a minimum. If you get bounced out, then somebody really did their thing against you. I hear you. I think it's time to shift the focus. And it also applies to the fan base. The Mets fan base, and we love them, and we're part of it, but it's like there's always the sky's falling mentality. And part of me gets it because there's no sustained success. I get that, but I think that energy has to shift from the top. That's the point you're making. It starts with Steve Cohen. It starts with David Stearns. Playoffs, just getting into the playoffs is not enough. I'm also going to keep it a buck on this, EJ. When you have the payroll they have, getting into the playoffs should not be enough. You got a $340 million payroll. We're talking about getting into wild card. Now, I know what the counter argument's going to be. It's going to be, well, Dex and EJ, look at the playoffs recently. If you just get in, then anything can happen. Sure.
Right.
I understand all that. However, what we're saying is, I agree with you. I think when you consistently are getting division titles, or you're getting in most of the time, it's a better indicator that this is sustainable. Yankee fans who like to cry poor now, which we laugh at.
Of course.
But they get division titles. Listen, 82 wins is a down year for them. right? But it's because their standard is division title, ALCS, really getting to the World Series. That's their standard.
Yeah.
I like having a standard. I don't think your standard should be the wild card. I completely agree with you. If you have a down year, the wild card is how I look at it as you got a down year, you had some injuries, and it's a fallback for you to get in. Cool. That's what the wild card is for. But your standards got to be the playoffs, and the standards should be trying to string together some division titles. That would be nice to see. I'd like to see that once in our lives, EJ. It would be nice.
It would be nice. Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports anchor host, joining me here for 40 days and 40 nights. What do you feel about this whole thing with Lindor and the hand injury? So he's going to be out for most of spring training. He is still optimistic that he's going to be there for opening day. I personally don't share that optimism. Maybe that's, again, Mets PTSD when it comes to injuries and people saying that, I never forget the Jed Lowry. He has a knee bruise. He'll be back soon, and he just never showed up again. Like I've seen it all, so maybe that's my PTSD. But even if he is back, one of the things I keep saying about this hamate bone is that you do have a zap thing of power, and that could actually impact you well into the season. It's why I look at this year and I look at Soto as this being the year he really has to earn the royal blue pinstripes. Like, I think that Lindor is going to be a little, slow to start this year. He's usually a slow starter anyway. How do you see that dynamic shaping out? And do you think that Soto will get off to a much hotter start than he had last year?
I hope he does. I think so, because I think he was really comfortable at the end of last year. I mean, Juan Soto's a fantastic player. He's one of the best at the plate. He's such a good eye, man. He's such a good eye. Oh, yeah. I think what you're talking about, though, and tell me if I'm wrong, are you saying we know Juan Soto's going to get on base? We know that because he has such a good eye. Do you need him to hit a little bit more? Is that
for me,
okay.
Like basically what I talked about in the fan the other night was Juan Soto. What they had those first 2 months, that can't happen again. Like he was getting on base. He was not like a total zero. But the moping around, the questions, is he happy, is he not happy, the not being able to come through with runners in scoring position, the inconsistency at the plate in terms of his bat, that can't happen. He wasn't awful, but to his standards, that can't happen. Because to me, last year, to start the year, even though the Mets were winning all those games, he kind of got carried early to start the year by Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo. Like, those guys, in terms of the power department early in the year, they got it going. And missing Soto's power to start the year wasn't as big a miss because we had other guys picking up the slack. This is a Mets team that I think their offense will still be good, but it's going to be different. They're not going to be able to rely on the home run ball as much as they were able to the last few years. So that's why I'm looking at Soto being like, he needs to – I don't care how he gets to the 43 home runs, which he had last year, the most of his career. It's got to be more either balanced out, or he's got to be more consistent in the beginning, and maybe someone else, maybe Lindor picks up the slack later on in the year. But that slow start he had, I thought, if he has that again to start this season, the Mets are going to be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think because then what are you talking about? You're putting a lot of pressure on a Bo Bichette who
just got here.
And I expect there to be. Granted, I think he's a good player, and I love that signing by the Mets. I think there could be some adjustment there. Then we're talking about some of the younger players, right? Who maybe some are primed for a breakout, whether it's a Francisco Alvarez, if Carson Bench makes his team, and he'd probably be hitting down in the bottom of the order. But you don't want those guys to start feeling it. So when you're looking at him, I don't generally like to say this, but when you're paying him what you're paying him, and we know Soto's going to produce, I hear your point. I think it's imperative he gets off to a good start. I think his mindset has to be Lindor's not here. The top of the line. I see it. I'm kind of like you. I'm expecting him to not. I think Lindor will be back and he'll be fine. Right. It wouldn't shock me if we see him mid to late April. That's my expectation right now. Mid to late April, and I think the Mets have to be cautious with it. I always say it's a long season, but with all that being said, I think that yes, Soto has to step up offensively. He's got to be getting big hits. He's got to be driving guys in. He's got to set the tone in the lineup. I think how he leads in Lindor's absence is going to be huge. Huge, huge, huge. I think it's really going to be huge. Does he have it in him? Yeah, I think so. I think we all know he's got it in him. He's just got to do it, because if he struggles, EJ, and I'm not even going to say the starting pitching, but let's say the Mets lose 5 or 6 close games in April. And two of them, I know what your reaction is gonna be. Two of them are like blown saves by your boy Devin Williams. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy in Citi Field. You know what I mean? It's gonna get crazy.
I remember when they lost all those guys, when they lost Diaz, Alonso, and they traded Nimmo, obviously. I remember again. That's when I kind of started going back in the fan and doing a lot more shows. I remember I was saying on the fan, this might be the most important first month of a Mets season in years. Now, I think they quelched that a little bit by bringing in Peralta and Bichette because, okay, those are legit stars. I think now people think, okay, I think people think the team's going to be good. And I don't know if they'll be so willing to jump on this team's back. But if they were going to try to piece this together, kind of like the guys they were piecing it together with initially, with just like the Simeons and the Polancos of the world, and they said, oh, trust me, this is a much better team. I was like, they better get off to a good start because this fan base is going to be rabid if they get off to a slow start. I think there's a little less pressure, but I still think that this is an important start to this season. They can't get off to a slow start. Especially, God forbid, Orlando hits 9 home runs in that first month playing in Baltimore or something like that. Or, everybody goes to Texas and hits. That's kind of always how it goes. And Nimmo goes to Texas and hits. That's the scenario they don't want. And then the Mets are 11-20 to start the year. So that's what I think they still want to avoid.
Yeah, and I will say to that point, I think how that started and then how the counterparts at the positions they lost the players in, first base and closer, how those guys perform. So whether it's Jorge Polanco at first or Devin Williams in the closer role, I think nobody's got more pressure than Devin Williams. I'm convinced on that because if he blows some saves, especially at Citi Field, EJ, it's when you're on the fan, it's going to be nuts. The fans are going to be so upset, and because they're like, look, you lost the best closer in the game. He walked to the Dodgers, and you brought in a guy from across town who appears, I'm going to be very clear, appears to not have been able to get it done in New York.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the Mets have a big first month to see. I agree with you. It's not as high as it was on December 15th to throw a date out there. I agree with you on that, but I still think if it gets a little bit dicey, the Boo Birds might be out of Citi Field.
No question. We had a comment in the chat here. I mentioned right before you came on about the captain thing that I thought was a little weird. That Cohen was like, there would never be a captain, and I've always thought this. I was like, you've been here for 6 years. You've never said this. This seems like a weird thing to stand on today. One guy in the chat here, shout out to Channy Bling, says Mets are undoubtedly best team in the division, but I think I think of a captain as a Yankee thing now, especially for New York. Doesn't Casey and New York Yankees only have captains? That sounds right. I don't know if there's any other baseball team. I know Casey's had, Perez has been their captain forever. And then obviously the Yankees always have a captain, and not right now it's Judge. Yeah, I've gone back and forth on that because I do feel like a lot of the time we do say, hey, like, how do you distinguish yourself from the Yankees? And the captain thing definitely, of course, is a Yankee thing. But I just think, to me, for example, a player like David Wright, like if another player like David Wright came through the Mets system and he had this special bond with the organization, became the great player that he was, the idea that you wouldn't want to honor him as a captain at some point simply on a weird like hill to stand on seems like you kind of cut your nose despite your face because you don't know what the future is. If you say, hey, listen, there's no one on this team that I think deserves to be a captain, so let's just stop it here. I understand that. But to me, Cohen is not, he's not like that. He didn't buy the team at 75 years old. He's only going to be here for a short amount of time. Like, he's a fairly younger kind of owner when you think of baseball owners. So he's going to be running the team for a while. I had the theory that I thought maybe the talk about the captainship became so controversial that he wanted to just squash it. Do you think that there's a theory behind this, or you think that maybe this is how he felt? He just wanted to express himself now.
Oh, it's funny because I thought similar. I thought that, this is him just trying to squash it. But I think it's weird to say that, hey, we'll never do this, just to be clear. And there's no need to say that. Like, there's no need to even say the never. You could just say, hey, at this time, we're not announcing the captain for the Mets. Okay, cool. I know a lot of fans want Lindor to be the captain. I look at Lindor as the captain. Personally, I do not agree. He's not in that status of David Wright captain. I do think there's something to that guy coming up, being homegrown, being connected with the fans. That's it. The Mets don't have that player right now, and that's cool. But to your point, when the next David Wright comes along, and somebody will come along that is cut from that cloth, that is in that vein, Um, why not do it? I don't look. This goes back to the first question you asked me. I'm all about having standards and your standards.
Yeah.
Mets fans, you don't have. I'm not saying to copy the Yankees, but you also don't have to give a damn about what the Yankees do. Do what you feel is right. Now, this is where I'm a little shocked with Cohen. Steve Cohen has brought back some really good things since coming to the Mets, since taking over owner. The guys who've been retired that I've thought absolutely deserved it. And there's been some great retirement days. Seeing Strawberry and Doc at the number retired. They're a huge part of the reason I'm a Met fan. That was dope. David Wright getting his number retired. That was dope. I don't want to ever get to the point where they retire too many numbers, but I think all that stuff is great. Bringing back the alumni day, and they had the Citi Field versus Shea team this year. I thought that was a great job.
Yeah.
I think they've been very connected with their alums. Shout out to my guy Jay Horwitz with the Mets. They've been doing a fantastic job with that. But do what you ever feel is your standard. That's my thing. Do what you feel is your standard, and rock with that. I think he's trying to diffuse it, and I think maybe you and I are on the same wavelength with this, EJ, because it's coming off of all the drama that we heard about. That was loosely reported. I heard it was maybe not as bad as some people may have thought it was, but all of that coming out, I think, is factoring into this. And the Mets are trying to show face that, hey, we've got a better clubhouse this year. It's not like it was last year. so not bad that we don't even need a captain. That's kind of what they're like. It's so good we don't even need a captain. But look, man, in the future, if you want to name a captain, it's cool. If they don't, also, am I, as a fan, incredibly torn up about it? Nah, it's whatever.
Dexter Henry joining me live here for 40 days and 40 nights. We're on night 26 here. I want to shift gears and talk some Knicks basketball as we get ready for the second half of the season coming up, the All-Star Weekend. And I will ask you about the All-Star Weekend in a second, too. But I feel like the Knicks really finished the first half of the season really strong. Outside of that disappointing loss to the Pacers, and the Pacers will just always be a thorn in the team's side, I think we can consider how much better they started playing down the stretch of the first half of the season. And then you look at the moves they made. Jose Alvarado's already been an impact player for the team. And I think picking up Jeremy Sohan on the buyout market, I think there's two prongs to that I'm curious what you think about. So here's my theory on Sohan. I think, number one, he could help them because he's another wing defender, and he's size at the wing, which they kind of lack. Like, Landry Shaman's great, but he's 6'4", 6'5". Josh Hart is 6'4", 6'5". Clarkson is 6'3". And, they got wing stop, so to speak, with Bridges and OG, but those are your really only true size wing, except for Mo Diawara, who has been emerging. My other theory is I think they don't want Mo Diawara to keep showing out the way he's showing out because they don't want to be in a situation where they actually can't re-sign him this offseason. So they're like, oh, Diawara, you're playing great. Oh, sorry, we signed a veteran who's a former first-round pick. And, your value's not as high anymore? Oh, how'd that happen? Well, we don't know. I think this is two-pronged. I think it's, he does certainly help them. Because Sohan's, he's a little older, a little more of a veteran guy, and he can guard most positions. He's an excellent defender. But I think also it's like, hey, he might be playing too good. We do not want this guy to get priced out of our situation next year. So that's my theory on the Sohan thing. But what do you think on the move to bring in Jeremy?
I see where you're going on it because the Knicks have, depending on, it's funny because they did free themselves up a little bit of money with Yabusele going out. Depends on if Alvarado picks up his option. That's for down the road, but they might be in a tight situation to sign Diawara, who I'm a fan of. Anybody's watched my show, New York Got Game, I've been saying I like this kid. He looks right. I understand why in the summer the Knicks couldn't sign him to a longer deal, but it'd be nice if they could get him on that Deuce McBride kind of deal that they have right now. He feels like look, right now he looks like a rotation player. He still has room to grow. He looks like a rotation player. I hear you. And in this world of second aprons and trying to circumvent the cap and stay under in any way you can and get players, because you gotta get cheap players to win now. What I mean is you have to get players that can contribute and be rotation players that are value players. The Knicks did that with Miles McBride. That has been a huge hit for them. Now it looks like Diawara could be another guy like that for them. That is huge. But then you're talking about having to give Miles McBride an extension as well, too. Will you bring back Mitchell Robinson? There's all these things. So I don't think your theory is crazy. I won't say that. I won't be happy with the theory, EJ.
I know.
Because I kind of want Mo Diawara to play. I like what we've seen of him. Do you trust him in the playoffs? I don't know. He's got more offensive upside than Jeremy Sohan, which is something I like too. But to your point, why I think Jeremy Sohan is here, a big deal could be part of what you said. And he's a guy who, down the stretch of the season, especially with OG Anunoby injured right now, he's dealing with the toe avulsion, and we'll see how long that takes for him to come back.
Yeah.
But he's a guy, and I think you'll see it as early as Thursday against Detroit. You can go throw him on a Cade Cunningham for a couple of minutes. You can now throw a different look. You're right. The Knicks don't really have that guy. Yeah, you can put a Landry Shamet. He's 6'4". He's a pest. You could have Deuce McBride on some guys who's also out. This is another part of it too. Yeah. The Knicks defensively may have gotten better on their bench just with the addition of Jose Alvarado and Jeremy Sohan. But I'm not looking at Sohan to play a lot of major minutes. Although now you got me rethinking all this because I'm very intrigued to see in these first couple of games how Mike Brown uses Sohan. I looked at him as, OG's out, he'll get some minutes, maybe take some of Clarkson some minutes. I was just saying, I don't want to see him take DeWar's minutes because he's playing so good, but you might be like, the Knicks are like, hey. We're not trying to have a situation where yesterday's price is not today's price, right? We're trying to keep it. We're trying to keep the price where we can resign you. I just think they need to work on get a little handshake agreement with him and his agent, figure out what you can figure out and go then. But Sohan should help. Do you think Sohan can help? I think he's going to help them a lot defensively. I don't know how much offensively, but I think just having a bigger body, EJ, to throw on some of these other players, some of the star players, guards, wings, I think can help the Knicks for sure.
I love the addition. I mean, again, I think I understood why he fell out of favor in San Antonio. Like for a team that doesn't shoot the ball great, it's hard to put him out there with guards that need to be able to get into the paint and need spacing. Like if you're putting him out there with Harper and Castle, it's just hard to have him out there, especially when Wemby's also going to occupy a lot of the perimeter as well. I guess in theory you could leave him in the dunker spot, but that seems not necessarily the best use of his skill set. Because to me, he's kind of like a mini Ben Simmons. Like he can kind of play point. Like he's a very good passer. He's a very good ball handler. He just can't shoot. He gives you no floor spacing. The Knicks, I think, are a much better fit for him because there's going to be only a few lineups where there won't be 4 shooters with him. Like only Mitchell Robinson, him playing with Robinson, essentially the only lineup that he would play in where there's no shooting. So I think it would be great because he can actually attack his guy. He'll be able to have a little more driving lanes, and he's a very good passer, so he can be a little turnover prone. But if he can keep the turnovers down, I think that he'll be a great guy to be able to spray the ball around, keep the ball moving, which is what Mike Brown wants. So I think he fits much better in New York than he did in San Antonio with the team San Antonio has now. This is a guy that was essentially a starter for 3 years. He's not a bad player, but sometimes just teams evolve and fits change, and you see what the Spurs have evolved where they have 3 or 4 Tasmanians that can get to the rim at any moment, and you're going to need to be able to space the floor in order to give those guys that kind of room to operate. Sohan just gives you none. I think with the Knicks, he's playing with Cat, he's playing with Brunson. Now Hart is shooting the ball really well. You've obviously Bridges and OG. These are guys that are perfectly fine spacing out the floor, and they'll be fine. So I think this fit makes more sense than it did in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think there's some lineups you'll see him play. You all got to think about when Mitch is out when he's back-to-backs. The Knicks have a few more left this season. I think there's some times you'll see him play small ball backup 5.
Definitely.
It's not ideal. I think against certain matchups it can work. You'll see that. But I think that's something he could give you. And you could play him because you're right. With a Hart, with some other guys, you'll have some shooters out there, even off the bench. Alvarado's going to be a willing shooter. We know Shamit's going to shoot. We know Deuce, when he's back, is going to shoot. There's some lineups where I think the Knicks, if they get to the playoffs and Mike Brown does even decide then to play 9 deep, I think defensively you might feel better now about with a little size with Sohan and just Alvarado being a pest. And if Deuce comes back healthy, there's lineups where you can play those guys with OG. Also another guy's got a little bit more size. He could play a little bit with some of those bench lineups, and I think that could look really good for them. So I'm intrigued, especially the Knicks are trending in the right way defensively, which excites me. They're up to 11th in defensive rating. I've been saying all year, can they get to a top 8 to 10 defense? They're trending that way. Now it's be interesting to see if they can get a little bit better.
And the other little wrinkle in this too, and I said this earlier today. I saw someone post on social media that during the All-Star game that Jason Tatum vignette it was like a wrestling vignette. They were like, it looked like Triple H coming back from his quad injury in the U2. It's a beautiful day, playing he's on the bike and stuff. That essentially was what it felt like for Jason Tatum. I also wonder if that's also a little bit behind in the back of their heads too, being like, we beat the Celtics last year, but knowing Tatum and knowing Brown as a tandem, you need as many good wing defenders as possible. And having someone like Jeremy Sohan could be help them for sure. The other thing about this, before I move on from the Sohan deal with this, is someone else posted this on social media, and I was like, oh, crap, that's a good point, too. The Knicks finally now have two guys who are going to mix it up. Two guys that are going to get under your skin. Two guys that are not going to take crap from anybody. And I think this is what this team needed. I actually said this when they signed him here on 40 Days and 40 Nights, where I was like, whatever we thought P.J. Tucker was going to be last year, like we thought we were getting the old P.J. Tucker, when it turned out that he just was trying to play out the string. He wasn't trying to get no fights with nobody. He just wanted to wear his fresh kicks. And if he got some tick, he got some tick, and that was it. He was not trying to, he was like the OG that already did his time in the streets. He was not trying to go back to that street life anymore.
Not trying to go back to that life.
No, he wasn't trying to go back to that life, and I can't even be mad at him. He's 39 years old, so I get it. I feel like, okay, you bring Sohan and bring Alvarado, and these are guys, Alvarado already was mixing it up in the last game that they played in Philly, and Sohan's a guy who's always getting into it with somebody. Those issues you had were people picking on Cat or people trying to get overly physical with the Knicks. These are the guys that are going to be with the nonsense, and I think that is good. Like, I think that this is one of the things I think the team had been missing, that there was no element of making teams uncomfortable, and there was no element of if a team pushed the Knicks, that there's going to be any threat or any pushback in any way. Now there is, because Sohan is a guy that is very willing to mix it up, and Alvarado is too. So I actually like that aspect of this team. Now that
I do too. I loved Alvarado. I wanted Alvarado here. Yeah. I think he's a perfect fit for this team. I think the fans are going to love him. I think the fans are going to like Sohan too. This team had, I don't like when people use the word soft because I think they throw it around too loosely, but I think the team lacked physicality. I thought that was thing and lacked a little bit of like that fight back. And I think sometimes that's fine. The guys who are on this team, that's not in their nature, and that's cool. But I think having a couple of guys that are really willing to mix it up, maybe other than like Josh Hart, I always felt like he'd be that guy, but having some other guys who are really willing to, they'll go get a tech. They'll tell somebody, hey, you're not going to touch my player like we saw Jose Alvarado do in Philly. Sohan's going to be that guy. They need that, and I think they need that particularly against Detroit, because Detroit, we've already seen, they'll fight. They got that in them. I mean, now some of that is just like you go to Detroit and everybody's like, we got to be bad boys 2 and 3 and 4. So we have to do this, right? And so people got to do that. I'm not saying they're tough. I want to be very clear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they like to fight. Those are not the same things. And I think the Knicks have to counter that. They got to Detroit is physical. I respect that. They're physical. The Knicks need to counter that. And these are two dudes. I know somebody's going to sit here and say, Dex, Jose Alvarado, 6'1", a buck whatever, soaking wet. And I'm like, Jose Alvarado has no back down. And I'm telling you, somebody who watched him play in high school, he has always been like that. I did an interview last week with his coach, Joe Bertello, who coached him at Christ the King. And I'm telling you guys, he has no back down. He is tough. He wants to mix it up. He wants to get those steals. He cares a lot about defense. He wears his heart on his sleeve, his chest, wherever the hell you want to say it is. He's wearing it. And I like that. I think the Knicks needed that, EJ. I think like they needed those kind of players at the deadline and in this buyout market. They need that because those are players to me that bring a lot of intangibles that can change a playoff series. The way Jose Alvarado can hound a guy for 94 feet when he's bringing the ball up, he does that to a Cade Cunningham, somebody else bringing the ball up in the playoffs. Now that team gets into the offense a little bit later. Now that person is disruptive. People don't see that doesn't show up in the box score, but that is huge in a playoff series. And you need those irritants, if I would say. You need those irritants on your team, right? I think we all like that. New Yorkers, we like that. So, yeah, I think you're 100% right. Like getting those kind of dudes here around the deadline was, I think, huge for this team.
Yeah, and as someone who has played in that Catholic high school league and played guard
That's
in that
right.
Catholic high school league, every one of them, it's survival of the fittest. Playing at Christ the King, one, just to play at Christ the King, and two, to play in that league, knowing the teams that you're going up against. And he played not to be like, oh, back in my day guy, he played more of like when I was back in the day. Like I think Rice High School may have still been around, and some of the other schools that aren't around no more, they were still around. So the Catholic High School League had real killers at the point guard position. So to make it at King and to make it in that league and to be the star that he was at his size especially, you have to be as tough as nails. So that's something that I'm not surprised that he brought coming from high school, because that's how all the guards from that league are. You want to talk about Kemba Walker, you want to talk about all the great guards coming out of the Catholic High School League. Kenny Smith, Kenny Anderson. It's some of the best basketball we have in the country. Dexter, Henry joining me here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. You mentioned it earlier, so I just got to play the drop because I have the drop.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yes, hopefully with we'll be able to keep Mo Diarra here.
I hope so.
I know, but I had to make sure I played that drop before we got out of here. I do want to ask you about just in terms of the expectations now, where the Knicks are, where they stand. So I look at this team, and I saw Brian Windhorst said that he spoke to somebody in the Eastern Conference, like a coach in the Eastern Conference. He said the Knicks are clearly the best team, and the guy was trying to say, well, and Brian Windhorst was like, well, what about this? He's like, the Knicks are the best team. It feels like people within the league kind of know the Knicks are the best team in the East. Mm-hmm. But there seems to still be some doubt that they can actually get it done. Like I saw, and I kind of got after a little bit of Vince Goodwill talking about how he felt like the team doesn't overcome adversity. I thought that was a little harsh, considering I don't know how many games they had to come back from double digits to the playoffs last year to show that they can overcome adversity. Do you see this as the Knicks being the team to beat in the East, or do you think this is more kind of a field-like situation where there are plenty of teams in the East that can come out? Or is it really a conference for them to lose?
Yeah, I haven't budged off my position on this, EJ. I think they're still the team to me to beat in the East. Like I've seen the Cavs go up in odds, and I've been like, why?
They're playing really good ball. The only thing that worries me is if you're picking them to come out of the East, that means you're saying that James Harden would have played really good basketball for 3 straight playoff series, and it's just something.
And possibly in 2 of those series. What you're saying to me is you would hope that in all those series it didn't go past Game 5, because we know we can't trust that man in a Game 6 or Game 7.
Exactly.
So the best thing you do is play in the Cavs and get to a Game 6 or Game 7. That's the way I look at it. That's the best thing that can happen. I think the Knicks are still the most talented roster. I still think they're the deepest roster. I respect Detroit. I think the way they're playing is good, but I think postseason basketball is much different from regular season basketball. And am I going to bet on a team who is yet to win a playoff series to win 3? No. I like the team that won 2 last year, that was 2 wins away from the finals, that I think improved their bench finally. I think it was shaky at this point in the season. If you want to tell me, and I saw Vince Goodwill's comments on the Hoop Collective, if you want to tell me that you have trepidation about the Knicks because you saw a high in December of them winning the NBA Cup, then you saw a pretty low of them in January of being 2-9, and then you see them bouncing back. Well, to that point, I would say, well, how is the bouncing back part not adversity? How is the 2-9 not adversity? You're also doing it with a new coach. That's also part of adversity. You also saw them last year, to your point, when they were 0-10 against the top teams in the NBA, go and beat the Boston Celtics and win the first 2 games in a row. We've seen this team handle adversity. I'm not worried about the team coming up big in clutch situations or tight situations. My biggest concern all season, I'm sure it probably has been yours, is his defense going to play like it's supposed to? Because that's the issue in the 2-9 stretch. The issue was the defense. The defense was terrible. Like, abjectly terrible. If the Knicks play the defense like we think they're capable of, they can go and win good games in a row. They won 2 games in Philly. They got a win in Toronto. We'll see what they can do in Detroit. They also had a great win in Boston. We've seen them get good wins during this stretch, this recent stretch where they've won 8 out of the last 10. You mean 10 out of the last 12. So, yeah, I still think they're the best team. Being the best team, and this is also a distinction, that scout or coach made to Wendy, does not mean that you're going to win the East. But I do think they're the best team in the East. I think they have the best roster. I think they have the most talent. And I think they're playoff tested. And so I think the Knicks also know that this is where the pressure comes in. I think they know this is their time to get it. Brian Fonseca, who hops on with me, on New York Got Game and does some of our shows, he's been like, Dex, the window's small. They got to get it done this year. When he said that this year, I was kind of like, oh, that's crazy. But yeah, when you think about it with Tatum, whenever he comes back, Halliburton coming back, yeah, it's going to get tougher. And the East is still better than people think. That doesn't mean I don't think the Knicks can get bounced, because I do. But if I was putting money on it, I'm still taking the Knicks over the rest of the field. I just think they're a better, deeper team. And I actually like the way their defense is trending. And I think the thing I like more than maybe is being given credit, I like the job Mike Brown has done. And I think Mike Brown's malleability is going to matter a ton for this team in the playoffs. You're not seeing as much of value of it now, but I think in the playoffs, I think that's going to matter a lot for this Knicks team.
I agree with that, because I think, I had my good friend, and you know him well, David Shepard, also earlier here on 49ers, and he actually thought Mike Brown would be a crutch for the Knicks or a detriment to the Knicks because of his postseason record. But I don't know. I think that when I think of Mike Brown, he had already been on the bench with Golden State, and they won a title. And I know they lost a 2-7 matchup against the Warriors as King's head coach, but I didn't think he coached poorly. I felt like Steph Curry in Game 7 did Steph Curry stuff, and no one was going to beat him on that night. He scored 50. Like, I know sometimes that just happens, right? And he was the kind of, but like, I thought he coached a good series. Like, they won a Game 6 on the road to force a Game 7. So, like, I thought he did a good job in Sacramento in that postseason game. So I know Mike Brown, Cleveland Mike Brown, and LA Mike Brown. Like, yeah, there were some ugly postseason defeats. I think he's grown from that. I agree. I think that some of the lessons the team is learning in terms of how he wants them to play will make them more dangerous in the playoffs than they were last year. The way they play defense, the way they move the ball more. Yes, the ball can sometimes get sticky with Brunson at the end of games, but I think, again, as they continue to learn the system and continue to learn how they can get shots, I think by the time you get to playoff time, they'll be a lot more comfortable. So I agree. I don't look at him as a detriment. I think that he's actually going to help them in the playoffs, because now they won't be quite as predictable as they were in the past. The one thing about the Knicks and this is how other teams would say that, they say, like, listen, you know exactly what they're going to do. It's just a matter of, are you going to be able to stop them or not? And they have a lot of good players, so it's not necessarily the easiest to stop them, but you know what's coming. I feel like the Knicks play a lot more of a fluid. Sometimes it feels like kind of random basketball, but I actually think that is good, because, again, so much of their sets were very formulaic and very standard. Their defensive principles were very formulaic. And, in fact, I think the reason why they beat Boston was because they actually adjusted, because Tibbs decided to throw out the drop coverage for the most part to go to a switching-only defense, and I think it threw Boston off. I didn't think they didn't get the easy amount of threes they typically got against the Knicks, where they knew where their shots were coming from. Brown's going to bring, I think, even more of that malleability, as you mentioned. So I think that's definitely going to be an advantage for them. I do want to ask you about the All-Star Weekend. So All-Star Weekend happened. I felt like it was, like, overall a mixed bag. Like, I feel like Saturday, a little rough ending with the dunk contest. Sunday was, I think, a lot of fun. I think the All-Star game kind of surprised people. How did you take kind of overall the All-Star Weekend? Do you feel like it was a win for the NBA? Do you feel like it was kind of more of a wash? Like, how did you take it now that we're coming out of it from Sunday?
So, EJ, I don't think you and I have ever talked about this. As some people know this about me, I can care less about All-Star games.
Really?
I think we're at this point where we don't have to care about them anymore. And I mean that in the sense of, I understand that they're never going to be what it once was. All of them. Like, we're fine. The Pro Bowl is basically a flag football game, and nobody cares. We are fine. Hockey, I don't even know what they do. They just score a bunch of goals, right? Nobody's playing. The NBA, for some reason, and I think there's always the racial component and the racial undertones that come with talking about black players in the NBA, I think always get scrutinized as these guys don't play hard enough. They don't do this. And I'm like, it's an exhibition game, guys. Would I like to see a dope game between the best players in the world? Yes, I would, which, interesting enough, we got some of that last night. Except for the last game, 3 of the 4 games were good.
Yeah.
They were actually really good. Now, here's what I've always thought about this, and I think you're starting to see this change, and this is my thought on it, why I think this was a win for the NBA. So I'll get to Saturday night in a second, but if we're just talking about Sunday, which is the biggest thing people talk about, because everybody talks about the game, and granted, people care about it more than I do. So how I just feel in this solely doesn't matter, but people care, and they want the All-Star game to be competitive. Okay, Well, for that to happen, what needs to happen, EJ? You need people that care. This is like saying EJ is going to do 40 days, 40 nights. He's not going to care how his stream looks. He's just like, whatever. His background is sloppy. He didn't comb his beard. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't care. Y'all would be like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this. EJ has to give a damn in order for everybody else to give a damn. And so Victor Wembanyama, who clearly gives a damn, I think it's dope. Well, even if I say it's just an exhibition, the fact that he gave a damn, the fact that, and I'm also going to call out Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards gave a damn and wants to jump up with him and challenge him. And even though he's joking about, hey, he's 8 feet tall and you got to give me I liked it. I liked that Victor was upset on that final shot of the first game when they needed to guard the 3-point line. He gave it up. He was so pissed. Yeah. And I like his competitive fire. I do. I think it's going to push him to be great. Look, people care about nationality in a big way, right? People care about national pride. Now, I don't remember who said this. Somebody, and this has been floating around Twitter. Somebody is calling out Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic for their effort, and I think it's fair. But if you noticed, a lot of the media has been very silent on that. Those guys have not taken the All-Star game seriously, and I'm not saying that they should when nobody else does. But in a game where people clearly took this one seriously, Kawhi Leonard also came out and dropped a lot of points for the hometown fans in the third game. I think it's cool. And listen, they tweaked the format. I would like to see them bring the Elam ending back for this. That's something I personally would like to see them bring back into this new format they have. Yeah. I think that would be dope. As far as All-Star Saturday night, EJ, man, look, I'm a big proponent of sometimes we have to understand when things were for a time and they don't work anymore. I'm perfectly fine with getting rid of the dunk contest. Perfectly fine with it. Doesn't have to happen anymore. Would I like stars to get involved in it? Yeah. Do I think that matters? Yes. But stars aren't getting involved in it for whatever reason. It's not happening. The 3-point shooting contest is clearly, to me, the highlight of All-Star Saturday night. Sure. In fact, I think it should be the last event now. I've been saying this for about 5 years. I think it should be the final event. The team shooting competition they had, that's fine. It is what it is. Look, you're not getting I'll watch the rookie sophomore game, the Rising Stars game. I'll check that out. You damn sure ain't get me to watch the celebrity game. And I start feeling old because I don't even know half the people are in there. Look, All-Star Weekend, this is what I'll say in closing. All-Star Weekend, I think we have to understand what it is, right? And the history of All-Star Weekends. They were always to promote the game. In a time when you didn't have League Pass, when everybody didn't have cable, when you didn't there was no social media, there wasn't access to see players as much. It meant something to me to see, oh man, I'm going to get to see Mitch Richmond play with this person in the 90s, or people I didn't get to see. Yeah. Now I don't think it matters as much to the younger fan because these guys there's so much exposure. So what people would always say about all these All-Star games, EJ, is that you're growing the game, right? But do you need an All-Star game to grow the game today is something that I would question. My answer is I think you don't. But here's the other thing I understand. All-Star weekends, if you've been or you've covered any of these, it is the time for all the corporate sponsors and their friends and everybody to get together and meet these players. And the players got to kiss the babies and shake hands. Because I don't think people understand that. The weekend for these players, it is jam-packed. They're scheduled to jam-packed. They got to do this with this sponsor event. They have to do this and this other thing. And then they got to do all these other events around it. They don't have time to really relax. So a lot of it is, it's building relationships for the league in that way. So that part of growing the game goes on. It's fine. Look, if All-Star Game's competitive, I could care less. Do I think this was a win for the NBA? Yes, because Adam Silver talked about changing the format. He's talked about, he wants to see the game more competitive. But I also have to say, while I care less about it, shout out to the dudes who cared. Shout out to the dudes who went out there and played. And I think Victor Wembanyama and, Anthony Edwards, I think they set the tone and guys followed. Now what I think I find intriguing, EJ, is Vic and these next generation of young guys, are they going to follow? Because you can't rely on the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the KDs to do it anymore. Yeah. Like, that time has passed. They're about to be out the league. So how the next generation carries it, I think is going to be huge. Along with what I'll say, if they stay with this USA versus the World format, what starts happening in the Olympics and the World Cups, especially we know how France is coming with Big Vic, that stuff is going to matter too when you play these games. So I like the format. It was fine. I was iffy on it, but it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, my thought process was like, if your All-Star game takes more than 30 seconds to explain, you probably should throw it in the garbage. But like, to be honest, like I feel like I feel like it's. But to be honest, sitting here today, I'm like, I gotta eat crow. Like this worked. And someone posted it on social, and I agreed. Like, essentially, they were like, what if people like about the All-Star game? Fourth quarter being competitive means you're gonna get pretty good basketball most of the time. And Adam Silver and the NBA basically said, how do we guarantee we can get 2.5 hours of fourth quarter All-Star basketball? And they essentially said, all right, we'll make the game a quarter. And what comes with that means it's less likely the game will get out of hand, so there won't be blowouts. So even if they don't take it seriously, these last couple of minutes should be interesting. But if by God they do, you're not asking the guys to play a 35-minute, 32 minutes. Some of these guys, how many minutes they be playing in terms of how intense it is. You only ask them to do it for short intervals, and they be maybe more willing to do that. And you got great performances. Like, listen, I am an All-Star game. The All-Star game's always mattered to me. And I've explained this a ton. It's a lot of different reasons. It starts with the first one I remember. Well, not the first one I remember, but the one that means the most to me is the one I wear the hat because it means that much to me. 98 at Madison Square Garden is Michael Jordan versus Kobe Bryant, who's a teenager in his first All-Star game. And this is like me, like full memories of remembering what I was as a basketball fan and like kind of my introduction to it. Like, that was the biggest thing in the world. I'm from New York City. It's playing in the Garden, which I knew about at that point in time. It's the home arena for the team I root for. And it's, Mike against the guy that they're saying could be the next Michael Jordan. It was the biggest thing in the world. And it was a great spectacle. And Jordan won MVP, and it was awesome. It was awesome. That to me, a lot of things that got me hooked in the NBA, but that's one of the things that got me hooked in the NBA. And I think about these moments, and I still feel like whether it's the dunk contest or the All-Star game, you still have these moments that I think still do matter to young fans. Like, I'm a kid at heart always, so I always like things that I liked as a kid. The other day, I was still watching 1990 Spider-Man animated series episodes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, part of it was for prep, but part of it also because I wanted to watch it. That's just how I am. So I love 98 All-Star game. 2001 with Allen Iverson winning MVP and Stephon Marbury hitting the threes late. Like,
that's one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Michael Jordan in his last All-Star game, almost hitting the game winner before Jermaine O'Neal stupidly fouled Kobe shooting the three and sent the game to overtime. But like, these are moments I think for kids that matter. I had a young kid called me on the fan. His dad called me. His dad's like, "Hey, I'm calling, but it's not really me. It's my kid who wants to ask you questions." I was like, "Oh, cool. I've never actually had this happen. This is gonna be interesting." And the kid's like, "Hey, like, is there ever going to be an opportunity for the All-Star game to ever be cool again, like my dad says it was at one point in time, or am I just ruined to never see good All-Star games?" That's exactly what he said. He said it just like that. And I felt sad. I was like, well, first of all, I feel sad for you, buddy, because like you're a young person. I'm like, yeah, you have never seen a good All-Star game.
Never seen a good All-Star game.
Because he sounded like he was like 9 or 10 years old. Like, you've never seen. Like, your dad's probably told you about these games I'm talking about, and he's probably telling you about Magic hitting all those threes in after coming back from HIV. He's probably telling you about games that I didn't even see as a kid.
That was my first All-Star game that I saw. That was my first one I watched. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, to me, like, I just think that those moments, even if in terms of like the growing of the game aspect, it can't do that. I think it still adds to the like iconic things of what makes the NBA the NBA. And
but can I ask you a question, EJ?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just curious because you made me think of something. I'm curious to what you think. Do you think that in this new format, because I think you make a great point about moments. I think that matters, right? Like, I want to say that. I think that matters because you took me back to my first All-Star games and watching that and what I felt about the league, even though it was a different time. Do you think moments like that can still happen within this new format? Do you think that's possible?
I think it can. What worries me more than the formatting is our short attention spans. Is the way we kind of consume media now is something is the greatest thing in the world for 30 seconds, and then we've already moved on to something else because somebody has something to watch on streaming, or there's some other sporting event happening, or someone's done a live stream and they've broke into like the White House, something like the way young kids kind of consume media is I don't know if these moments stick with them as much as these moments stick with me. Like I couldn't go on streaming and like just watch the '98 All-Star Game until recently. Like the NBA didn't have an NBA app. They kind of still don't. It still stinks. But you know what I mean? Like
not a fan of it.
It's so bad. But like my thing is like I didn't have that as a kid. Like I had to just watch that game or the last Michael's last All-Star game against when he almost hit the game winner in Atlanta. Like I had to like watch that game and then it happened and I was like, oh my god, that was crazy. Like I can't believe I just watched that as a kid and that's it. Kids now, like they can always go back to their phone and see the clips that they want and they can already move on to something else. So I actually worry more, not even just about All-Star games, just about all sports. Is will we kind of have these iconic moments that people will remember? Like I wonder, like that last World Series we had some of the most iconic moments, iconic games that we'll ever see, and I don't know if we will really be able to ever fully put it in the correct historical context because people just move on too fast. I mean, this was arguably the best World Series we've ever seen, and if this happened in 1997. We would still be talking about it right now. We would still be saying, what did we just watch? Like, are we ever going to see anything like that again? And we've already moved on to 11 other different things. And I worry about just in terms of sports. I think it's going to be tough for everybody.
No, you make a fantastic point. And I think it's interesting having this conversation with two people who work in sports media to have this discussion because I do think about that a lot. We move on so much, even in stuff I create, the conversations I have, even this show that we're on right now, and having this dope discussion, right? It's a great point because even as somebody, I do some play-by-play work and I do stuff in, around basketball and things of that nature, and I will always think about this World Series. So I want to bring this up because you made me think about it. I will think about this World Series for where I was watching Game 7. I was at a good friend of mine, shout out to my friend Justine. She has a Halloween party every year, and I get back with a lot of old local news folks, and we're at this Halloween party, and she had 2 TVs on in her apartment, a Halloween party, and all the sports fans there are crowded around this game, watching it. And the moment for me will be, I was at this Halloween party, I'm dressed up, but I'm still with other people connecting over the sports moment and how crazy that Game 7 was. It was nuts. Right? Like, I don't think it's hyperbolic what you said, because you're a little younger than me, that it's the best. It's the best. The last time I saw World Series that crazy, it's funny. The Blue Jays were involved in it too. That's how good the series was. I do think it's a fair concern. And now I'm sad because that kid is like my daughter's age. And I want, she doesn't, it's funny. She was sitting with me last night. She does not care about the All-Star game in that way. And she likes basketball. And she's like, oh, so All-Star game? So what's going on? And I'm explaining to her the new format. And she's just like, okay. She's right to her iPad, which proves your point. Right. Which proves your point. My daughter was just like, okay, yeah, all right, whatever. And she was just on to the next thing. But for me, and you're right, for you, those moments mattered. I hope that there's a 6-year-old child out there that watched the All-Star game last night. I hope this happens. Even for me, who's like, whatever. What I'll say more of this, as much as I don't care as much about the All-Star game, I think my hope all the time with sports is I still think we need moments, but we also need things to evolve. And if the two things can happen at the same time, I think that's dope. Do I think it's possible for that to happen with the All-Star game? Yeah. Maybe it devolves into what Adam Silver and the company thought about. Hey, you know what people want? They want competitiveness at the end. All we're going to do is give them a quarter and make this a little tournament, and then we're going to give them that. And it's fine. If that works for the players, then this is the new format that we're in for the All-Star game. If that creates moments where somebody's like, maybe some kid 6 years old remembers, yo, man, I remember how pissed Wemby was when his team didn't guard the three-point line. And then the next year, he came back and killed everybody.
Right.
That creates two moments, to be honest.
Right. Yeah.
And there's something that come about it. I think how the players carry this out of this could give you the moments, but moments matter about how it lives. That's a great point you made, EJ. Moments matter about how they live, how we talk about it after. The way I saw you talk about 98, like I could see the joy in you of remembering that, right? Yeah. Like I remember where I was watching that exact one too, but for you, it was special because that was you're really introduction to basketball.
Yeah, I'm like 7 years old at that time.
Right. So at the time, I think I was a sophomore in high school at the time, right? And so I remember that and it being New York and all the time. But I also remember how I felt when I was 7 watching it in 91.
Right.
When Magic came back and hit all those threes, and my dad is telling me how dope Magic is and all that, like that stuff is stuff that stays with you. And now we're getting to a whole nother conversation. I'm just wondering about what it's like for the younger sports fan. But it's a really dope point that you brought up, man, because it's just like moments I still think matter a ton in sports. But in this digital age we're in, we forget them so quickly. Like, yeah. There'll be stuff from this past football playoffs that people are going to forget. That amazing throw that Caleb Williams made. That's one of the craziest throws I've ever seen.
Yep.
This is why we watch sports. This is why we do what we do. This is why.
It's the best. I always say it's the best reality show you could have.
Facts.
Because even reality shows are scripted.
Right.
This one is not. It's totally.
Even
I mean, unless you think some people are throwing games with it. Besides that, it's totally unscripted. Unless you got a Terry Rozier out there or Jonte Porter. Otherwise, it's totally unscripted. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Right. But listen, man. Look, just to bring it back.
Yeah.
If a generation of kids sees something last night and they say that's dope, it's a huge win for the NBA. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay for things to evolve. I think it's fine that the All-Star game doesn't mean exactly what it used to mean, but it can have its own meaning in this time. If that happens, I think that's huge. And I would wish the same for other All-Star games in other sports. It doesn't have to be exactly the same way. You can make changes. I know some people were against other changes in the NBA. Oh, I don't like the NBA Cup. I personally love the NBA Cup. I know some people don't like the in-season tournament. I like the in-season tournament. The last thing the NBA has to fix is tanking, but they probably won't do what I think they should do. But that's a whole nother story. So,
well,
I
gotta give you my thing on tanking. So my theory, I put it out there. I think this is a borderline foolproof plan to stop tanking. I think it would be totally fine, and I actually think make the NBA more interesting. I keep saying, number one, like in order to begin this, you got to get rid of pick protections on trades. So that goes away. Which
I've been for that, so I agree with this. Okay.
Yeah, which you won't need anymore after once I say what you got to do.
I hope it's what I think you were gonna say.
Every team that misses the playoffs, you all have the same odds. There is no longer if you're the worst team, you have 14%. If you're the second to worst team, you have 7 or whatever. Like, it's just flat, which would put everybody at 7%. Now, my kickback is, okay, if someone will argue, well, what happens if teams prefer to be in the lottery than be in the playoffs? Which I don't think would happen every year, and I don't think would keep a lot. It wouldn't be a lot of teams. I think you're probably only talking about a handful of teams that we're complaining about, and those are teams that would be actually kind of good. It wouldn't be like they'd be tanking for, 7 or 8 weeks or whatever. So I think it's a lot different. But okay, fine. If teams are deciding that they don't want to be in the playoffs, every team's in the lottery. All 30 teams, and 32 when we get Vegas and Seattle. That would put everybody at about 3%. If you want to mix it up where you say, okay, maybe the teams that miss playoffs get 5 and the other teams get 2, I can do that too. But just put everybody in. Because I think this idea, this misnomer about parity, I don't think we actually really understand that it's not going to be impacted all that much. Because we have Victor Wembanyama and Cooper Flags in 2 out of 3 years or whatever, and that's rare. But we get a lot more like Zachary Richichet and a lot more other guys that are number 1 picks that are not going to come to a team and just change the entire franchise the way Victor and Cooper have. So let everybody be in the lottery, and I guarantee you, like, there are only a handful of teams where you say, oh man, this is unfair. Like, okay, if the Spurs and the Thunder and the Knicks and then, I don't know, again, we're only talking about 4 or 5 teams. Celtics, okay, if they get the number 1 pick, say, oh man, that kind of sucks. Like, they really lucked out. But okay, it's a lottery. Like, who knows? If the Portland Trail Blazers, who may make the playoffs, got the number 1 pick, I think that's great for the league. That's a good team in a mid-market that now has a boost that we would not have expected. Or if a team like the Charlotte Hornets, who may sneak into the playoffs, they get the number 1 pick and they did not tank, cool. I don't think that's not going to upset the parity. It's not going to upset the league where it's like, oh my God, the rich are getting richer. Even these like like if the Timberwolves or like the Miami Heat, like the Magic, there are only a handful of teams where you'd be like, oh, if they got Wemby, that would be unfair. Most of the teams in the league, if they got the number one pick, it wouldn't be that big a deal. In fact, it'd actually probably be a great story. Because now you have a good team that now has a launching pad to maybe becoming champion. Because what did everybody complain about? That there's no way to get out of the middle. That's the whole complaint.
Right.
That's why they do tanking. Is that you
Right.
can't get out of the middle unless you get really bad and get like a life-changing player. Well, now you would give those teams in the middle an opportunity to still get that kind of player. And then the teams at the bottom, there's no longer an incentive to just keep losing games. So
Yeah.
I am for putting everybody in the lottery. If you want to say, okay, you know what, we'll just do all the teams that are in the lottery currently, okay, fine, but then flatten the odds. It can't be a race to the bottom.
So I think your idea is one of the better ideas I've heard from anybody, because I think most people's ideas have not been good at all whatsoever. Because what you addressed a couple of things, and then I have a question for you. You addressed a couple of things. One, which is there's a misnomer that talent only comes from the top. And if you look at the NBA, and I would say the last 15 years or so, and then if you look at the NBA right now and say, hey, we're the best players in the league, there are multiple best players in the league who are like late lottery picks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, second round picks like Nikola Jokic, right? Middle of the first round draft picks like Giannis Antetokounmpo, second round pick Jalen Brunson. Some of the best players in the league are not even number one picks. There's only a few that you want to say. Vic Cooper Flag seems like he's rising up there.
Yeah.
I know Kyrie Irving is some player was a top player. Anthony Davis. But for every one of those, I could give you Kawhi Leonard, right? You can talk about James Harden.
Yeah.
There's plenty of guys you could talk about. So Luka Doncic,
Halliburton.
Right, Tyrese Halliburton. Luka Doncic was the number one pick, which is crazy.
Right.
But that's a whole other story. I think it's the idea of people being like, you have to get the number one pick to tank. To your point, with the odds the way they are right now, with the top three teams get 14.5%, what teams are recognizing is like, hey, because odds have been flattened there, if I just play in the middle and I get into the middle of the lottery, even if I get up to 5, there's still a good chance I could find a good player, which to your point, that's happening. People are finding good talent all throughout. So if I could stack picks with protections, I'm also in agreement with you. Get rid of pick protections. Completely in agreement with you on that. Why I like your idea, people think it's radical. You can get talent from anywhere. It doesn't have to happen number one pick. And it could actually make the whole draft, if you're going to do a draft, more interesting in that. My question to you is, would you take it a step further in something that I support and just abolish the draft? We don't need drafts anymore.
No, that's the line. So now this gets in my heart because the only thing I love more than All-Star games is the NBA draft. I'm an NBA draft nerd. I love the NBA draft. I love the process of it. So here's the thing about the draft and why I think I actually totally understand the reasons why it would make sense in terms of support for player movement and player freedom to allow them to just be free agents. But I support the draft because I think it is still an effective marketing tool for both the college game and the NBA. I think I think if you just throw them into free agency in July 1st, just like everybody else, that's taking away another like date to look forward to in the NBA that people do go around and look forward to. And I think that it's important. I think it's important to the college game too. I think that's why Adam Silver supporting a G League Ignite was one of the stupidest things he's ever done as a commissioner, because it just recapped college basketball in a way. And then these guys will come in as top picks, and people didn't know who they are, so it lessened interest in the draft, which I think is definitely something that is a moneymaker for the NBA, and I think it's something that does drive interest for the league.
Oh, it absolutely does. What if, when I want to be clear, when I say abolish the draft, I will say the one thing that EJ made a point there, just for our viewers, is there that I think it matters is the interest of the draft and growing the game, promoting the league, connecting yourself to amateur players before they're professional. I do think that matters. But what if we did like a signing day, like we do with college, where you have, hey, this is where you're going to announce where you're going to go. I would still tune into that. You are a much bigger college football fan than I am. We've talked. We know you love Miami.
I'm wearing a Miami shirt today, right?
And there's I think one time EJ and I were texting when Miami played Pitt this year, and shout out to EJ's brother who actually roots for the University of Pittsburgh, who I like, my alma mater. I don't pay a lot of attention to college football signing day or college basketball signing day, but I know a lot of people who are into that. And I think if there was an NBA one, people would be really into it. I think it just will replace the draft. There's a way to replace it in a different way. Because what I think the point you're making is the draft is a very compelling TV show. I would be foolish. I would be foolish to say that it's not. It is. People want to know, who's going to get traded here? Who might get drafted here? What does this expert say about these picks? Even when they say this person's going to be great, and then you never hear about them when they're bad. All this stuff, right? But I do think signing days will be compelling about, okay, here's this pool of young free agents that could come. Where are they going to sign? Who's the cap space? Why would they sign there as opposed to this place? And some people are going to listen and say, well, all the big market teams would get it. No, they wouldn't, because you're still going to have a salary cap. Yes. You're still going to have to fit guys in, and there's only certain ways you can fit them in. I think what's going to happen is it would show more who really runs their team the best. All these teams that are bad organizations that can't scout, that can't develop, you're going to get exposed.
Yeah.
And I am here for that. Like, in a real world, what I would love no draft, relegation style like European football, but I know that's never happening. I'd love all that. But I think your idea is the closest to no draft. And I probably like your idea. To be clear. Yes. Excuse me, no lottery, right? Like just having everybody random odds of where your selection would then be. If you're gonna have a draft, that I can sign up for. What do you say? You said like 5% for the playoff teams?
Yeah. My thing was like it comes out to like 3% or so, 3.3% for every team. My thing is okay. If you think that's a little too harsh, if you want to do okay, I give the other people 1.5%, the teams that don't make the playoffs, and then give the teams that do make the playoffs a less of 1.5%. I don't think that teams are going to be tanking for 1.5%. I think that you would be like, listen, it doesn't really matter. And again, the race to the bottom ends. You don't have I need to be the worst team. But I'm fine with the 3%. Just give everybody 3%. Every pick is a lottery pick. Like I told, when I explained this, I was like, they do a combination of numbers right now. Essentially, whoever has the most amount of combinations they are the team with the big odds.
Right.
I'm doing all those teams with a logo on those ping pong balls and just pick them up. Just like they do in Royal Rumble, even though that's scripted. You just pick it up. All right, you're number 1. All right, you're number 2. That's how I would do this for the entire draft. It wouldn't be it's 4 teams and then we just slot it at the end. Everything is random.
I think that's the best thing that you can get because it totally de-incentivizes tanking. Now, sure, is there a year, and it would happen, that the world champion is going to end up with the number 1 pick? Oh, well, so be it.
Exactly.
So be it. Because you know what that'll tell me? If the world champion ends up with the number 1 pick, and again, we both, EJ and I are making this point, that does not guarantee you that person's going to be a franchise savior or going to be a game changer. That could also apply for the number 2 pick, the number 3 pick, whatever. I think that's the closest thing while you can still keep a draft, and also, because this is my point, it's going to hold teams to good scouting and good development. Because if a couple years you don't know if you're going to get it, you're going to have to be like, well, we got to make sure we hit at number 7. We got to make sure we hit at 14 if we really want to get this done. Yeah. We need to really develop our players. We need to really use our G League program. I am all for that. I am all for whatever. It's not about parity. Whatever makes us, we have to start talking about this as sports fans. We have to hold teams more accountable instead of giving them free get out of jail cards every time with a number 1 pick. No. The owners don't get to skate by on this. The GMs don't get to skate by on this. If you get it, because like it can go the other way too. You can get a 3%. You might get lucky, and 3 out of 4 years you get a top 5 pick, and your team still stinks. That's on you, sir or ma'am. That is on you, and we should hold those players accountable because it's like, hey man, you had the same odds as everybody else, and you didn't get it done. It's the closest idea. I'm an abolish the draft guy, but if you're not going to give me that, sign me up for EJ's idea because it's the closest thing. Because everybody gets what they want. Everybody is equal odds, and you still get to have the draft, which is a fantastic TV show. We have to call it what it is for the NBA. Fantastic TV show, and maybe it also makes the offseason a little bit better. Because now if you were a team that were bad and you missed out on getting a top pick, let's say you had the worst team in the league, but you got picked out of EJ's bowl with the balls, and you got picked 17, and you're like, man, this is the year we really need to get an impact player because I don't know. my job might be on the line. Okay, what are you going to trade to move up? Now that makes the offseason interesting. The other team might say, I don't need this pick right now. We're kind of set up for the next 2 to 3 years. All right, let's kick this back. Let's get some more picks down the road. You can still trade your future picks. That can still happen.
You can still trade picks. And I think in the offseason, too, what would happen is, like, think about the guys like a Jonathan Kuminga or these guys where teams are like, he's good, but I don't know if I want to sign him because I may be able to draft somebody in this next lottery, and I've seen him. He's good. He's got potential, but I don't know. And then so that guy just languishes in free agency for months and months and months till he has no choice but to just go back to his old team. Again, if you're one of these scrub teams and you get the 20th pick in the draft and you're looking at your squad and you got all this cap space because you've been trying to, tank it and lower your cap number, you may say, you know what, like, we can't have another losing season. This is a 22-year-old guy who's shown he could score 24, 25 points in playoff games. I'm going to give this guy an opportunity, and I think that the players, a lot of these guys in free agency, they would like it a lot more too. Because I think that you have a lot more teams that be willing to actually take a flyer on these guys who do have talent, but just maybe don't fit into either a tanking plan or a team that's trying to win a championship plan. They're in these they're in this middle ground. We see it almost every year where there's a restricted free agent guy that just doesn't sign with anybody because nobody's going to give up that kind of money needed to bring that guy in, only to either then not get the guy, or again, if you're trying to tank, you're like, I don't know if it makes sense if I'm the Kings, I'm going to sign this random guy who's good, but he's not going to make us a championship team. Again, if you want to keep your job, you have back-to-back 50-loss seasons, you might want to take a shot on Jonathan Kuminga. You might want to take a shot at some of these other guys. So
it'll make
for
more interesting trades.
More interesting trades. I think more player movement. I just think it would be a more dynamic league moving forward. I gotta leave you on this, Dex, and
yes,
thank you so much for joining me on this time. And
of course,
generous with the time, and I appreciate it. It's now been more than a week with the Cole album. I've had Ray Jarvis, our good friend, on to talk about the album. Shout out to Ray multiple times. Before the album came out, after the album came out, he likes it, but he said he was underwhelmed. Which I think is how a lot of people felt. I won't say most. A lot of people felt. I've sat now more than a week with this project. I feel like I like it more every time I listen to it. I don't think that my critiques are like I don't think they've changed per se, but I still feel like it's one of those projects that I like I've said a bunch. I think J. Cole, the expectations he set, not necessarily with just how great it was going to be, but just how he was rapping over these last 6 years. I think that's like the only reason why people don't really love this album, the people who don't like it. Because I think he just presented like this is going to be a bar exam where I'm just going to give you as many quotables and as many punchlines as possible, because that's essentially how he was rapping for the last however many years. There wasn't that much storytelling. In projects he was doing, off season, there's no story. Might delete later, there's no story. This is just, again, a bar exam. And so people expected, okay, you said you were doing this to get ready for this. So when they got this, they're like, what is this? That's why I said I'm not reviewing this yet. I said I don't want to review this yet because it's not what I expected. I don't know if it's bad or good, but I don't want to jump out the window. I go back and I say, okay, I like this album. I think it's closer to his better work. I don't think it's as good as Forest Hill Drives. I don't think it's probably as good as Born Sinner either. I also love Off Season. I think Off Season is extremely underrated. But I think it's more on that end than it is some of the lower projects like Sideline Story. And I know some people love For Your Eyes Only. I'm more on the lower end on that. I think it's more on the other side than it is on the downside. But how do you feel now, more than a week away from having actually listened to the album? Do you feel better about it?
I do. It's funny because you and I texted maybe like a day after the album dropped. I think you and I were texting about it, and we have very similar feelings on it. And I would say I've had slight change on certain things, right? Okay. Like, and here's what I'll say to this, because you talked about expectations, and I think expectations sometimes ruins people's ability to enjoy a lot of art. You know, I say it in a variety of ways. If you wanted barred up J. Cole, I'm like, you just made the great point. You got that on the off season at a very high level. You had that on Might Delete Later on a very high level. I was listening to Might Delete Later a week or two before the album came out. I was like, damn, that was a really good project. It kind of gets overshadowed by 7 Minute Drill, but it's a really good project. This album, when I first listened to it, I remember being like, damn, the storytelling was really good. That's one of the things you and I were texting about. I was like, the storytelling is really good on this album, man. And I think J. Cole's one of the best that we've ever had doing that. and should get his flowers for that. I love the storytelling on this album. I have an appreciation for both sides and what he did thematically with it. There was some singing from him I did not care for. One song has grown on me, though, in the singing realm that I did not care for on first listening, and that is Bombs in the Ville, Hit the Gas. Yo, my first couple of listens, I was like, I don't know about this. And then the other day I was playing it in the whip, and I was like, yo, this is dope.
I don't know what it is for me. I am one of the, it seems like the minority that loves Bombs in the Ville more than the second half. I like both. I agree. I've grown to really like both songs after like not really caring for them at all. Again, I think that's some of the expectations being like, I don't want to hear this. This is not what I'm trying to hear at all. But like the first part, Bombs in the Ville, has really grown on me in a major way. And the second part is also, it's so saucy. It's smooth. It's good.
It's got that sexy drill vibe. Like
exactly.
I love it. Like you can't help but just like be bouncing to it. I love the whole vibe. I like both parts. At first I didn't. I was like, I remember my reaction was like, I don't want to hear this. I think my one knock on the album, like there's a couple, the Only You track with Burna Boy I don't really care for. In the
that is the worst. I think that's the worst track on the album in my opinion. Like I was listening to when I was working out today, and I was like, I'm never gonna listen to this song. I'm always gonna.
Yeah, me too. I haven't really listened to it.
I try, but I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah, so one song I'm like, yeah, that's an auto skip. That probably I also can't stand the Let Out. I'm not a fan of that.
So you haven't grown on the Let Out. I actually thought I was wondering if that was a song you grew on.
No, that hasn't grown on me. I've tried, EJ. I tried, and like I played it like yesterday. I was driving somewhere, and I was just like, nah, man, this still has got. So it's those two songs. I think my knock on it more than I love the storytelling. So I want to be very clear. Like I love the storytelling of this album. When you go from like whether it's 2-6 or Safety to not Bunch Street. What's the other song?
Poor Thing?
No, what's the song?
Drum and Bass?
Drum and Bass. Thank you.
Drum and Bass.
Drum and Bass. That stretch of it is arguably the best stretch of music on the entire album. I think there's a little bit too long. It is a lot of music to sit through. It's an hour and 40 minutes. It's a lot of music to sit through. I tend to like shorter albums, but I do think for a double disc, the hit rate's really good. I was talking with my brother-in-law about this yesterday, and it's like, yo, man, this is actually one of the better hip-hop double discs we've heard in quite some time. I think it should get the – double discs are hard to do. They're really hard to do. I mean, I thought Kendrick had a decent job with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but that is a very dense album. I like that album, but it's a very dense album. It's really hard to go back into because it's just – it's very, in a good way. I'm glad he made it. It's a great piece of art, but like, it's very dense. This is a good listen throughout. Cole's storytelling is really good. The rapping is really good. It's not barred up. And I'll also add, EJ, he gave us the birthday Blizzard 4-pack. Where if you wanted some barred up stuff, you had that too. I think we should allow, and I think this has happened more as I've grown with hip hop. There's been more vulnerability. I think Cole's been a huge part of that. Kendrick's been a huge part of that in hip hop. And so the vulnerability through storytelling, I think, is really dope on this album. It's good. I think my initial read was an 8. I had an 8 out of 10 on this. I've kind of slightly bumped this up to like an 8.25. Maybe I might be at like an 8.5. I think now. Okay. I think I'm like you with the albums. I like it more and more. EJ, are we going to see him on tour? He announced a tour today.
He announced a tour. So a small thing. And maybe this is some of me being Alicia Stewart, my mom's son. You can't call UBS Arena Queens. You can't do that,
bro. I had a friend. Shout out to my homie Crystal Garland. She says to me, "Well, which of the New York shows would you go to? Would you go to the Brooklyn show? I'm from Brooklynite. Would you go to the New Garden show?" She said, "Well, where do you think it's gonna be at Queens?" I said, "Well, I wonder where he would do it. Maybe he would do it at St. John's." But I said, that's kind of a smaller venue. Probably doesn't want to do that. I said, maybe Forest Hills Arena, but that's also a bit of a smaller venue. But I said it will be dope considering he went to college in Queens. Like, he might want to do a more intimate show. That's cool. What I saw was UBS Arena in Elmont. I said, what?
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Bad job.
And I'm sorry, like, shout out to Ebe. Like, Ebe, you are responsible for this. You're his manager. You're the head of Dreamville. I can't really put that on Cole, but you should have known better as a Queens guy Like, and so my mom's from Cambria Heights. She literally could walk across the border to Elmont. It is, if you live in that area, if you live in Southeast Queens, and you live in Cambria Heights, there's Elmont, and then there's Cambria Heights, Queens.
Not the same place.
Call UBS Arena in Elmont, Queens, New York, on your poster and the promotion for the tour. That's you can't do that. You just can't do it. And I like him doing a show at UBS. I love that he's doing 3 New York area shows. I
love it.
I think Cole is definitely adopted as a New York rapper. He's not from New York, but it feels like New York has adopted him in many ways. So I appreciate that he embraces that. He raps in a New York style and East Coast style. I saw that today and I was just like, a Queens show? Where the hell is he from Queens? And I look at it, it says UBS Arena. I'm like, that's not Queens. And people take offense to it. Like, there's a lot of history. There's white flight history. There's a lot that goes into why there's Long Island and then there's Queens. So they call Elmont Queens. I was like, I went to my grandparents' house in Queens too often in Cambria Heights every Sunday when I was a kid to be explained the history of Southeast Queens to see that. I'm like, somebody get Ebe on the phone and say, you got to change that to Long Island or Elmont. Put the right town. That's not Queens, New York. It's close. You can walk from Queens to Elmont, but it's not Queens.
It's not Queens. Or just do it. Actually, the other place I thought they could do it, although, it's probably running into logistics with the time of the year, with the U.S. Open comes, like, do it at the Billie Jean King Center. That's
a great venue.
I'm not a big wrestling fan, but I went to a AEW show there a couple years ago. And I took my daughter and my nephew, and it was a really dope place for a show. And I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, but it was really well done. And I was like, man, this is actually a great place to watch sports venue. I know other concerts have been done there, so that could happen too. And I thought about that when I was there. I was like, I'd watch a concert here. That'd be kind of dope. So yeah, like, if you want to do it in Queens.
Right.
Like, I get it. St. John's was too small of a venue. Again, probably Forest Hill Stadium as well too. Although that'd been a nice tie-in with one of the albums being Forest Hill Drive. That would be kind of dope. Exactly. But I saw that. I'm like, hey, listen, I know people from Elmont, okay? Yeah. And they're not calling it Queens. Trust me, they're not. People from Elmont be like, where are you from? From Elmont. Oh, I'm from Long Island. Okay, you get that. And as somebody who has, like, in-laws who live in Southeast Queens and St. Albans, there
you go. I
no, man,
St. Albans too.
That's Queens.
Exactly.
Elmont is not that. Okay, Springfield Gardens, Queens.
Exactly.
Elmont is not. The Islanders play there. That's all you need to know.
The New York Islanders
that's all you need to know.
At UBS Arena. You cannot call that Queens.
Thank you, EJ. Thank you for calling this out. I think it's right for the people. Ebe, we love you, but you got to get it. You got to get it right, bro. That ain't Queens. I love the spirit of what y'all were trying to do. I do. I love the spirit of it. But we got to call a thing a thing. And Ebe, that's why I'm most disappointed. Ebe has to know.
That's what I say. Bro. Like, Cole's not making the list. Like, he's just being a performer. Like, this is Ebe's job. Like, this is what he's doing. And, like, he is from Queens. So
that's my thing. I'm like,
a tour list that has a Queens, New York date, and then the arena is UBS Arena. I'm like, how do you allow this? This is unacceptable.
Unless you tell me, this is one thing I'll put out there. If Ebe and company were like, hey, we don't have another place, we're using UBS to hold it till we maybe get the Billie Jean King center or something. Yeah. I understand that. But if anything, I still feel like it feels like false advertising. That's what we'll call it. It feels like false advertising, my friend. When I saw Queens, I was like, man, where's he going to do the show? And then UBS Arena? Really?
Yeah.
Listen, I love these doing 3 New York shows.
Yep.
I will be at one of them. I will make sure that I'm at one of them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go to one of them.
EJ, this is a long way for you. I think people need to recognize this, that this is a long way for you because you, 2 years ago, took down your Cole artwork in the crib. You were disappointed.
That TikTok video's still up. I sit around and I'm like, especially, not to think I'm some famous person, I'm like, as I become more of a public figure, I'm like, should I delete that video? But I don't know. I think that's weak. I think it's how I felt.
felt in the moment, and it was cool.
Yeah.
You and I talked. I remember talking to you about it after, and I'll let people know. Like, I talked to EJ about this when we were at the Fan, and like this was not fake. EJ was really disappointed. Like the disappointment as a hip hop fan when I talked to him was like, "Yo, man, I understand your disappointment," and we had a conversation about it. And no, you don't take it down. It's part of your journey. It's part of who you were. It's part of an emotion you had. It's okay.
Exactly.
There's no shame in that. Hey, you're still listening to the music and enjoying the music. So who cares?
Exactly. At this thing,
I mean, I care that you
is.
went through that. Just to be clear, I'm not saying I don't care that you went.
Yeah, no, I know. No, but I'm saying, like, I think it's just, and what I see, and you see it too, like, you know, and I talk about a bunch, and it's the stan culture. So if you're like a fan of somebody, like, you can never go against them. With anything they do. So like, and that wasn't how it always used to be, but that's how it is now. So I've always felt like a fish. These last 2 years, I felt like such a fish out of water. Because anybody who knows me since I was in college, which makes sense why I became a J. Cole fan, like, knows how much like J. Cole is one of the biggest influences on my life. So when I talk about how much it pained me what he did, it's not a joke. It's not a show. I was actually, it was awful. Like, that's how I felt, and that's why I'm telling you, Dex. And for those who don't know, if you go to my TikTok, I had multiple J. Cole posters I hang up in my house. One of the big things about when I moved into my own crib, it was in my old basement when I lived in my parents' house too. But in my crib, especially when it was my own with my fiance, it was like I really want to put up all the things that like make me and her. So there's a bunch of Beyonce pictures and Taylor Swift stuff for her, obviously. But I have a bunch of movie posters. I have a bunch of artwork. And I have a bunch of album covers. Nipsey Hussle used to be back here. Now I changed it for this one. Now it's XV. But like I like that was like one of the things I wanted to do the most was like I want to put pictures up that like represent who I am. I had 2 Cole albums. He's the only person I had 2 for. Well, no, I had 2 Logic 2. But he was the first person I had with 2. I had KOD and I had Forest Hills Drive. So I would walk around my crib during those weeks. I couldn't look at them. It was actually physically making my days worth to look at them, and I can't keep looking at these things. And I'm really frustrated. Like, I'm going to record that I'm taking these things down. Now, the problem I've had, Dex, is I've told my fiance multiple times, I'm like, Drea, I feel like he has earned a spot back on the wall. And now she's like, I'm sorry, like, there's not enough wall. Like, she's like now resisting me being able to put him back on the wall. I'm like, Andrea, I know I was angry, but I think he deserves a shot on the wall.
What did you replace him on the wall with? I don't think I've ever talked to you about this. What did you replace him on the wall?
So let me think. What did I replace him with? I know there was. I replaced him with a picture of Gambit, who's my favorite X-Men.
Favorite X-Men character.
The one in the small hallway in the bathroom. I don't know if I replaced it with anything. That was one where there were already multiple artworks there, so that one I might have just left blank. But the one where the Forest Hills Drive, I remember very vividly where that was. That was replaced by a Gambit picture that I bought at Comic-Con a couple years ago, and I kept trying to figure out where do I put this thing.
Where do you want to put
it? And it went to the Cole picture down. I was like, I know exactly what to put here. So Gambit went up there, which made sense because then in that same year, that was like the 90s X-Men 97 episode with Gambit, having his unfortunate demise. Sorry for spoilers. But it was this incredible. It's an incredible season. You got to check it out. But like I remember just like being, this actually makes sense. This was a big year for Gambit, so I'm happy that I put him up there. But now I want to get him up there. But Andrea is still on like she doesn't like the stuff with No Name. Like she's not a hip hop fan or a Cole fan. But like she's one of those people where if she feels like you have slighted women in any way, it's gonna be tough to get into her good graces. So the No Name thing she didn't like. And she's like, so I'm saying, listen, I want to get him back up there. And she's like, we'll have to talk about that at some point. So now I'm like, I want to get him back up on the wall. I think he's earned his spot back. It was a good enough album. I'm going to this show probably. I need to get up on the wall, but I'm facing resistance right now.
I wonder if for her it might be getting the fall off since he's not on the actual cover or unless you get the CD version of the cover. It's funny because I have the vinyl. I have the vinyl. I haven't even played it yet. I probably will spin it on Wednesday. I have like a day off and some time, and I'm actually going to spin the vinyl. I haven't even taken out of its packaging yet. Yeah. But I think that might be a good one. I think you should get the Forest Hills Drive one back up on the wall. I support that. I think it needs to get back up on the wall.
Yeah,
One, because I think
Taylor
that's
go back up. I can understand. I think Forest Hills Drive. That's what I was thinking. I think Forest Hills Drive.
got to go back up.
It's got to go back up at this.
It's also
point.
a great album cover. It's a fantastic album cover.
It's a beautiful album cover. He
Yep.
served his penance. I live in Forest Hills, which is why I got the album cover and why I got the poster.
See, so you double meaning for you there.
Yeah, exactly. So it made I want to get him back up there, but I faced some resistance. Dex, I've kept you so long. I appreciate this so much. This was a lot of fun. You're welcome. I got only 14 days left, but you're welcome anytime, man. This was
I may take you up on that, especially if we listen. Hit me up when there's tanking reform. Hit your boy up, because I need to hit you up for some tanking reform, because you've had one of the best ideas I had. So hey, I just want to say shout out to you, man, for having a good platform where you get to talk about the things you love, sports, wrestling, comics, hip hop. I know we share some of the same loves, which is why we've always connected. Yeah, man, just proud of you and excited for what's next to come, man, and just keep shining. This is a great platform. So shout out to you, shout out to New Generation Media, and everybody who's watching. Keep supporting independent media. That's a big thing of mine. Keep supporting independent media. It matters.
Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports. Catch him everywhere with New York Post Sports, YouTube, social media, all the jam, at DHenryTV on X. Dex, this was an absolute thrill. Thank you so much, my brother.
Anytime, brother. We'll talk soon, okay?
You got it, man. That's Dex. What a fun conversation that was. You know what, man? I just feel really blessed and feel really honored to know not just very talented folks, but just quality people. And I say that a ton, and maybe for people who watch this show or listen to my podcast or anything I do, I told y'all from the beginning, like, this is going to be a me bigging up people I am inspired by, people that inspire me currently, whether it's people from the past, present, or any situation in terms of people just I enjoy. And, you know, I fought, and I'm still fighting, but prior to, you know, before getting hired by Fan, I fought tooth and nail to want to be in this position, in part because of so many people I was inspired by. And, like, I felt like whenever I got my own platform to do something like this, I wanted to really be able to kind of give back in a way to the people that now that I've gotten to my career and I've met so many of these great folks and been like, man, this is like a really dope industry. It's a hard industry. It's one of those things where finding work is tricky and getting in is tricky, and there's so much gatekeeping that goes on. And sometimes when you come in, you don't know what to expect. I've told that a ton. And I feel very lucky that I've gotten to meet so many great people, just people that are just stand-up people that look out for you and just aren't looking to, you know, take advantage of it in any way. Like, again, I wasn't a newbie in the game because I'd been in media for years, because I had been working in news at Spectrum News New York 1, but I was new to this world, this professional world of sports. And to get to meet some of the folks I gotten to meet, and Dex is one of them, I feel really blessed and honored. So when I started doing 40 Days and 40 Nights, I knew a lot of it was going to be me doing solo shows, but one of the things I wanted to do was, again, these are folks that kind of have inspired me while I've been in this industry, and they've also kind of allowed me to really feel comfortable in this industry. And I wanted to, these people are all a reflection of who I am. David Shepard, you heard earlier today. All my team members from Maggie and Pearl Show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, Manny Rodriguez, who I got to get back on. We got to do a mulligan from that botched try, the first try. And obviously Andrew Bogish, right? And again, we have more and more guests coming that I think are going to be really exciting, because this is far from over. But I really just thought that was something that was going to be important. I wanted people to understand that this is going to be the most authentic version of Egypt, which was my number one goal for doing this. You had to see the people that are my friends and the people that inspire me and the people that have lifted me up in this early journey in my career. So to see Dex, to see all the people I've been able to get on 40 Days and 40 Nights, man, it's been a lot of fun. And we got a lot more shows coming. It's not like we're at the end, but, you know, it's just really exciting and really, you know, thankful I got to rock with my guy Dex for as long as we did. And that's the one thing that's been funny, too, is like, you know, when I first started this, I kind of feel bad for, like, the Maggie Grays and the Mike Fliegelmans, too. Again, Fleegs is also an awesome dude. Like, you know, and they were different because they were on the same show, so I couldn't do 2 hours with each of them, right? But as the show is going on, these like spot interviews have become like their own podcast. They've been like here for an hour and stuff. And I hope the listeners and the people that have watched, they've enjoyed these interviews. I feel like they have. From the comment section and what I've seen from you guys, you seem to have enjoyed them. But it does come with like, this is a long time to be spending with somebody. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, I didn't get to a lot of stuff in the show. And I'm trying to sneak through a couple of these stories that I mentioned because I want to make sure I tie a bow on them. But man, I just feel really honored to get to know a lot of these folks. And again, and Dex is again real stand up dude, and then beyond again just people being stand up people. These are great talents. Dex is a great talent. Shep's a great talent. Obviously, you know how I feel about the Maggie and Perloff team. Fliegelman. Who else have I had? I know I've had more people than that. I don't know why I'm blanking out right now. But and again, I hope to have more other people that I think are great. And again, a reflection of who I am as a host and as a reporter and as a journalist and as a producer and as an overall personality. So shout out to Dex, man. Make sure you follow him everywhere. D Henry TV at on X, New York Post Sports, everywhere on social media and their YouTube channel. Hopefully, I get to go back on there soon to do another Knicks watch party. That was dope. I told my parents, I told my fiance, that was one of the most fun things I had done in my career so far. And I've done watch party before. And honestly, the other really fun thing was when we did it for Maggie and Perloff show, when we did the SEC Championship game. I thought that was a really fun project that we did. That we wanted to do a lot more. And I don't know why we didn't do more of those watch parties, but it seemed like the audience really enjoyed that too. And but yeah, getting to do that watch with him and Brian Fonseca, who's also a really awesome talent and a good dude as well. That was so much fun. So I'm glad I got to pay it back to him, to let him come on to 40 Days and 40 Nights and rock with me, because this was definitely a fun show. I want to wrap things on a couple of things real quickly. So Aaron Judge spoke to the media today, and I found these comments funny because, and I'm kind of taking this a little bit, not taking it, but because I agree with the take though, from Ian O'Connor about how, man, sometimes you think these players, are they just robots, and then you realize, oh no, they're kind of just like us. Because what do we say so often about the Yankees? Oh, you're the New York Yankees. Why aren't you getting all these players? Why are these guys going everywhere else? Well, apparently Aaron Judge, when he was speaking to the media today, while he feels good about where the Yankees are right now, even he admitted that as they got off to their slow start in the offseason, when the Ahmed Rosarios of the world being resigned, and you see the biggest things of free agency going elsewhere, even he started thinking, what the hell is going on?
It was brutal. I'm like, I see a lot of free agents out there. I see a lot of guys that, like the Bellingers, the Grishams, the Goldschmidts, like, yeah, let's sign these guys right now and then start adding more pieces, because I'm seeing other teams around the league get better. They're making trades. They're signing big prospects or big players. And, we're sitting there for a while, kind of making smaller moves. But, it was tough there in the beginning. But I think once we solidified getting Bellinger back, we got Trent being our center fielder, be our leadoff guy for another year. And then you had a guy like Goldie, some of the back end, bullpen pieces that we've been doing. I think we're in a good spot.
All right, so they're in a good spot now. But again, he initially says he was very annoyed by what was going on.
Early on, it was pretty tough to watch. I'm like, man, we're the New York Yankees. Let's go out there and get the right people, get the right pieces to go out there and finish this thing off, because we got a special group of players here. We got a good core, good young core. So it was frustrating, but I think we're right where we need to be.
So if you're thinking that, okay, did he just keep these frustrations in-house, or rather to himself? Turns out he did not.
Did you express any of that to them?
Yeah. But they took care of business. I've voiced my opinion about a couple of guys, and Bellinger being one of the guys that he just adds a dynamic to this team that we've been missing for quite a few years. So excited he's back.
I really feel like if you're a Yankee fan, you have to love this from your captain. I think at times with the Yankees, now I think Judge has been a great captain. Has there been times where I think sometimes Yankee fans felt like they wish he maybe put his thumb on the scale or maybe rattled some cages a little bit more when it came to some of the things that were going on with the team? Sure, I can understand that to some degree. But if there's any thought that he's this passive guy that's just letting the team just handle whatever they want to handle, he's just a player. The fact that he's watching how we're all watching, he's very invested in what the team is doing to improve, and when he doesn't think they're doing what they need to be doing, that he's actually getting into the ear of the front office and maybe even ownership to maybe try to put his thumb on the scale to say, hey, we need to get going here. We need to get some guys in here. Like, there are some good players out there, and we're missing out if we don't bring our guys back. I love this. Like, I think if you're a Yankee fan, you'll love this too. Because, again, it speaks to how engaged he is in the situation. And what he said at the end there, where he said that, this is the kind of guy in Belgium we haven't had for a couple years and we really need him. It speaks to the urgency that I think is real. I think Aaron Judge understands that he's a great player. He's not planning on declining. He's not planning on seeing the cliff come. But it's also just a reality of sports that you're not going to be superhuman for your entire career or for the rest of your career as you enter your late 30s. He's now in his mid-30s, and this is typically when you start to see some decline. And what has been a problem with the Yankees is there just simply hasn't been enough support for Aaron Judge in the lineup. It's been a lot of Aaron Judge or bust for this team and a lot of home run or bust for this team. And one of the reasons why I agree, it seems like he agrees with me and I agree with him and a lot of New York Yankee fans agreed, why Cody Bellinger needed to be one of the, if not the most high prioritized additions this offseason was because of the dynamic he brings in terms of his versatility, in terms of his power from the left side, and in terms of being just an all-around solid baseball player. They've had too many guys that either couldn't play the field or couldn't run or could only play one position or were one-trick ponies at the plate, and Bellinger's just not that. And he understands that. He could have just been a wallflower and just been like, oh, well, I guess I'll let the management handle it. And maybe they would have handled it. But what this tells me is that there will be other instances where the Yankees will be trying to go after guys and Judge will let his feelings be known. And I think because he's the captain and because he's the best player on the team, I think it does put pressure on the front office to make sure they don't screw this stuff up. I think that's, if you're a Yankee fan, that's what you want to see. I know some people would say, oh, I don't want my players getting involved in front office stuff. I think that's different when we talk about firing managers and trading guys. That's one thing. I think when it's about going after top-end talent, that's a totally different story that I think you do want your players involved in. Again, it speaks to how engaged they are. So I first of all, I love how honest Judge was. And I love how he's like, we're the New York Yankees. It reminds me of that. I don't know if I have that Manny drop, but that's one of my favorite Manny drops. Manny Rodriguez, when he says, we're the New York Yankees, damn it. Basically, that's essentially, I do have it.
It's the New York Yankees, damn it.
I mean, that's pretty much what Aaron Judge was saying this offseason when he's like, why the hell don't we have any top-end players coming here? What the hell is going on?
It's the New York Yankees, damn it.
So the fact that he actually engaged in that way, I think is awesome news. I think if you're a Yankee fan, you should be really excited. I think they have, a great team. I think it's going to be a dogfight in the American League East, but there's no reason why they can't be one of those teams at the end of this. And then finally, before we get out of here, man, I want to talk about Tyreek Hill real quick. So Tyreek Hill, he got cut by the Miami Dolphins today. Bradley Chubb also cut. So it really kind of signifies their... it signifies their rebuild, I guess. I think that's fair to say. I know these guys are kind of older, injury-prone, and past their prime. So maybe you're saying, hey, like they might be better off without these guys, especially Tyreek Hill because of the character he is. But I do think it does speak to, this is a different era of the Dolphins moving forward. And Hill's not going to hit the market. For the Dolphins, again, I think this is the clean slate they needed. And I hope that they don't stop here. I don't know what's going to take to get rid of Tua Tagovailoa. They might not have a choice but to keep him on the roster. But if I was them, I would try to bring in another quarterback to, at minimum, compete with him for the starting job and potentially just be the guy that's going to be entrenched as a starter. I feel like essentially what the Colts did with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, if he's going to stay on the team, that's essentially what should be Tua Tagovailoa's life this year. If he's going to be on the team, they need to bring in some other guy who clearly has accomplished more and is probably better than him, and you could put out there and say this guy's going to be the starter, and if the guy flops, you can go back to it and give Tua one more shot. But that era of Dolphins football, I just associate with underachievement, and it's stuff that Jordan Poyer has said. And I agree with Dexter Henry. I don't like to use the word soft because these are professional athletes and it's football. So, I don't like to use soft. But the Dolphins just seem to lack a level of mental toughness. You want to talk about overcoming adversity. This is a team that seemed to never be able to overcome any adversity. That error needs to be flushed in the garbage. Jeff Hafley's coming in. I think this essentially is a punt year. I don't think you can really judge this guy because I think that this is going to be a team that's going to need to make a lot more changes. They already traded Jalen Phillips midseason. Now Chubb is gone. Tyreek Hill is gone. There's going to be more pieces. I'm curious if Jalen Waddle is a guy that gets put on the trade block because he certainly could have value for other people. Dolphins going into a true rebuild is definitely what they need at this point in time. And it may mean some early losses, but I think they'll be better for it. On the Tyreek Hill side, people are wondering where he may go, and I'm sure someone will take a flyer on him. I just don't feel like he really is going to be the same Tyreek Hill. I thought you saw some slippage in his game even last season. He is coming off of a devastating knee injury. Like, torn ACL, dislocated kneecap. There may be other, I don't know if there's any other ligament damage, but at his age when speed and mobility and agility is such a big part of his game, I can't imagine teams bringing him in to think that he's going to be the same Tyreek Hill. So if he's not, even if he's a diminished version, you got to ask yourself, is a diminished version of Tyreek Hill worth the headache this guy is? Because I like to think that people can change. I like to think that people can mature. This guy's had a long time to mature and change. And we just keep coming up with the same kind of issues with this guy. The woman that he just divorced when they were going through their proceedings. I'm wondering if there's an NFL investigation that's going to happen. Because their proceedings, in terms of the things that she was accusing him of, very heinous and very dark. So if that part of his life is not something that's being adjusted in any way, he had another lawsuit where he broke some girl's ankle. Like that was from a couple years ago. It just seems like he still hasn't really matured. If you want to say, hey, listen, he's Tyreek Hill, he's a 4.2 speed, he's the fastest guy in the NFL, like, I'll take my chances with him because I think I can win. We know this is a cutthroat league. We know in the NFL, if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So even if my personal feelings and my character don't agree with it, I can understand it from an NFL level. To take a flyer on this guy when he's not any of those things anymore, when he's not the fastest guy in the NFL, when he's coming off a major knee injury, and he's 33 years old, going to be 34, that feels like a different calculus where I would wonder, unless I'm super desperate, why am I taking that risk? Because you could bring this guy in and he not even change life for your team on the field, and you could end up having a very embarrassing news headline that then you have to deal with. Like, the Chiefs gave up this guy in his prime. And the Dolphins stripped this guy of his captainship while he was still a star on the team. Like, if that is how those teams felt about this guy and his character, why am I going to take a risk on him at this stage of his life, now knowing that it is definitely a possibility, maybe even a probability, that Tyreek Hill may not even be the same guy he was just this past last season, who was already becoming a diminished version of himself anyway. So I don't really love the Tyreek Hill, put him on the Chiefs. I don't think that's going to happen, and I wouldn't like that. Buffalo, again, they got a lot. It seems like they got a lot of other issues to deal with. Do we need to put Tyreek Hill into that locker room? I don't know where he goes and where that risk is worth it because of the headache that could come with it. So I don't quite get it. I'm sure Chubb will get picked up by somebody, but Chubb's another guy who's also extremely injury prone. So these are two guys that someone's going to take a shot on them because it's the NFL. I don't know if these guys are ever going to be the same again. Chubb is not, I don't think, as much of a malcontent as Hill is. But, by the way, Hill also quit on his team. We forgot about that. Remember the last game of the season when Aaron Rodgers was lighting them up when he was still a Jet? And Tyreek Hill just basically did an Antonio Brown without actually taking off his pads and jersey and doing the peace sign and throwing up the deuces to the crowd and walking to the tunnel. But he pulled himself out of the last game of the season and then said afterwards that, yeah, I'm ready for my next chapter. He quit on the team, which is why they took away his captainship the following year. This was just this past season. You're going to deal with all that And this guy's trying to rehab from a major knee injury. Do you trust that he's even going to take that rehab seriously? These are all legitimate questions because of who he has been. I don't think that they're unfair. I know some people say, "Oh, that's unfair." Like, we don't know what his work ethic is. Like, this guy has not been a guy who's taken his job seriously enough for way too long in his career. Now, at the very end, where he's accomplished a lot of things already, he's already won a Super Bowl. I'm gonna think that he's gonna take this seriously, and he's not gonna get in any trouble. He might not. I'm letting someone else make that move. If he goes and he changes life to some other team, all right, we missed out. That's fine. There's too many red flags for us to have taken that risk. I think if I'm running a team and I'm the general manager and you want me to take that risk, I'm passing. If you're Green Bay, Green Bay's the team that maybe would think about him, I think, in theory. I'm not touching him. I just think it wouldn't make sense for most of these teams. I guess the one team I think about, only because they seem to take a flyer on these guys and people seem to go there and they're mostly fine, is does Philly take a shot? Does Philly take a shot on him as like a number 3 type receiver? You know, I know that they're moving on from Jahan Dotson. Shout out to Jahan Dotson. He's from the Lehigh Valley area where my family is from, or where they live rather. But like I don't know if, again, for a locker room that right for now still has AJ Brown, does Tyreek Hill being added to the mix make that any better? I can't imagine he'll enjoy another former Alabama quarterback in Jalen Hurts and his limitations from the pocket, just like he didn't enjoy Tua's limitations in the pocket. So these are all questions, man. But Tyreek Hill is cut. He will be a storyline for this offseason. I'm curious how that knee recovery is going. I mean, he got injured kind of early in the season, so it may not be implausible that he'll be ready for week 1. But again, that was a nasty injury. I mean, think about like Brandon Ayuk. Like it seems to be a lot going on there, but he never came back this season. So he got injured around the same time from the previous season that Tyreek Hill got injured. I feel like it was kind of a similar nasty knee injury, and he's much younger. So we'll see what happens with the Cheetah. But right now, he is moving on from the Miami Dolphins. Man, this was a fun show. I want to thank you guys so much for checking me out. Again, if you enjoyed this show, we stream live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., YouTube, New Generation Media, X, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, Action EJ. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you follow me on social media. Again, EJ_Stewart on X, Action EJ on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you, again, also subscribe to the podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network. We post all episodes of New Generation content, including 40 Days and 40 Nights, on our podcast channel. Just search NU Generation Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts, and you will find all episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights, plus all the other shows we do on New Generation Media. All right, I'm in the back time. That's it, man. Thank you guys so much for checking out night 26 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I don't have any guests for tomorrow yet. That's not something usually I've had to stop the music. Say, oh, I got a guest. Wait, hold on. I have no guests for tomorrow, so it's going to be solo dolo for now. But who knows what will pop up? You never know what may happen. I want to give a big thanks to Dexter Henry. He did a phenomenal job today. Fun conversation. And again, hopefully we got some time. Maybe we'll have him back soon. You never know. And again, I want to have a big thanks to you guys for listening and for watching. This was a lot of fun. I'm EJ Stewart. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow.